Chapter 25-21. The people that were watching the livestream noticed that Ningqi was drawing his bow, and they successively sent bullet screen comments to remind Jiang Wei. But most of these comments carried a trace of ridicule. As far as they were concerned, whether a fellow at the perfection stage of the earthly immortal realm would be able to harm a hair on Jiang Wei was a problem. No one knew that Ningqi had broken through both immortal and demonic cultivation, and no one knew how terrifying the power of the immortal execution bow was. Jiang Wei looked at Ningqi indifferently. He didn't seem to care about the immortal execution bow at all. As if he was sentencing a criminal, he said, "Ning Beixian, a disciple of the Xianjian sect, you killed an earth immortal prodigy of the Jiang family for no reason." Swoosh! A beam of golden light shot out from the immortal slaying bow and pierced through Jiang Wei's head. In an instant, the zenith heaven prodigy with 20 fruits of the way gradually dissipated. In less than 3 breaths of time, he had completely vanished into thin air. When everyone saw this scene, they were stunned one after another, including the group of golden immortals behind Jiang Wei. Their faces were filled with doubt and contemplation. Where did Jiang Wei go? At the same time, the live stream exploded. Because Jiang Wei's name had turned black. This meant that the host had gone offline, but the live stream was still going on. This meant that Jiang Wei was dead. The live stream that only had a few tens of thousands of comments was instantly flooded by hundreds of thousands of comments. Some comments were even overlapped, making it hard to see clearly. Jiang Wei is dead? Jiang Wei was killed by Ning Beixian? How is that possible? What kind of bow is that? Impossible. How could Senior Jiang be dead? Jiang Wei is a zenith heaven golden immortal. His opponent is just an earth immortal. How could this happen? Some mighty figure must have suddenly killed him. It's Elder Yu Qing. Behind these comments were all chosen ones. Currently, they were all in their respective immortals' caves, gasping in shock as they sent out their own messages. At this moment, even the hosts of other live streams were rebroadcasting the content in Jiang Wei's live stream. If the host died, the live stream would automatically be shut down after a cup of tea's time. This was a special feature of the All Heavens live stream platform. Jiang Wei died on the ancestral planet? Is this declining place really going to rise? The prophecy of the Yixian sect master is coming true. The mystic immortals were also paying attention to Jiang Wei's livestream. When they saw that Ningqi had killed Jiang Wei with a single arrow, they were first shocked and then fell into deep thought. Although it was Ningqi who killed Jiang Wei, they were thinking deeper. If it was not for the sudden change in the ancestral planet, it would have been a declining land. It was impossible for an earth immortal to kill a grand heavenly immortal in a place like this. Any place where such a thing would happen would only prove that the place itself was slowly rising, which was why there were so many unimaginable things happening. Jiang Wei's livestream room closed very quickly. Everyone stared at the black screen and immediately switched to the All Heavens forum. Posts related to Jiang Wei's death sprung up like mushrooms after the rain. Tens of thousands of posts were basically discussing this matter. Some believed that old ancestor Yu Qing was behind this, some thought that Jiang Wei was targeted by other enemies, and some thought that it was because of the Zhu in Ningqi's hands. There were all kinds of suspicions about the immortal slayer bow, but they did not personally go to the ancestral planet. Even if they suspected something was wrong with the immortal slayer bow, it was impossible to determine its grade from the livestream alone. Everything was just a suspicion. The betting thread that Ningqi had opened earlier was pushed to the top in an instant. Threads appeared one after another in the thread, basically asking the same question. The king sent me to patrol the mountains. Who are you? Why do you know that Jiang Wei can't leave the ancestral planet? Were you the one who killed Jiang Wei? The people who had bet with Ningqi were dumbfounded as they watched their all-heaven coins being transferred to Ningqi's account. Their hearts were bleeding, but other than feeling heartache, They were also shocked by Jiang Wei's death. Thus, they joined in the discussion. Many of the active users were grand heavenly immortals. After all, Jiang Wei was of the same level as them, and yet he was killed by an ant in their eyes with a single arrow made them feel a sense of danger. An earth immortal could kill a grand heavenly immortal? That was already threatening the status of grand heavenly immortals. Jade Clear Sect. The Jade Clear Sect Patriarch put down the heavenly talisman with a smile, while the three mystic immortals of the Jiang family, who stood before him, looked at him with pale faces. "Is that a superior grade Dao item?" one of them asked with some difficulty. "I don't know." The Jade Clear Sect Patriarch smiled. He paused for a moment. "Jiang Wei is dead, and you won't be able to explain yourself when you return. Do you want to capture my disciple and bring him back to the Jiang family? If so, why don't we fight first? I have some confidence in keeping you here as guests. Go!" The three mystic immortals of the Jiang family looked at each other and finally attacked the Jade Clear Sect Patriarch with tacit understanding. They would not have guessed that Jiang Wei would die on the ancestral planet, but now that he was dead, they must capture Ningqi and bring him back to the Jiang family, or they would not be able to face the wrath of the Jiang family patriarch. Jiang Wei was his favorite disciple in the Mystic Sword sect. Although they were not there personally, Old Man Mysterious Sword and Qi Yao had sent out a strand of their consciousness to pay attention to Gui Jianqiu. When they saw Jiang Wei being killed by Ningqi's arrow, they immediately retracted their consciousness. They were truly frightened. Even Old Man Mysterious Sword had considered many scenarios, such as whether the Jade Clear Sect Patriarch had a trump card on Ningqi that could protect his life. But they had never considered that Jiang Wei would die. Jiang Wei is dead. What should we do? Qi Yao looked at Old Man Mysterious Sword with a trace of fear in his eyes. Even the Ascension sect's status in the Langya immortal domain was far inferior to the Jiang family. Now that Jiang Wei had died by Ningqi's hand, the Ascension sect would be implicated as well. Let's take it one step at a time. I never thought that brat could kill a grand heavenly immortal realm. Old Man Mysterious Sword smiled bitterly. The Jade Clear Sect Patriarch should be able to help us. This won't do. I must immediately return to the Ascension sect and inform the sect master so that he can make arrangements to deal with the Jiang family. After Qi Yao finished saying those words, he immediately left the ancestral planet. This time, he did not bring anyone with him. Luobua and the other geniuses of the Ascension sect were all left in the Mystic Sword sect. Chapter 25-22. Jiang Wei was dead, killed by Ning Beixian. In the eyes of these Grand Luo, Ning Qi's status was merely something that would be praised as a genius with unparalleled talent among Earth immortals. However, at this very moment, these Grand Luo were looking at Ning Qi with shock and a hint of fear in their eyes. Jiang Wei, who was much stronger than them and had gathered 20 Dao fruits, could not even take a single attack from Ning Qi before being killed on the spot. This proved that Ning Qi could easily kill any Grand Luo present if he wanted to. It would be extremely easy. Shi Yifan, He Zhe, Nailan Shiji, Zhao Tong, and the other disciples of the Mystic Sword sect who were at odds with Ning Qi all stood blankly on the spot as if petrified after Jiang Wei's death. Yingjin Xuan and the others, on the other hand, watched the scene in disbelief before a hint of wild joy surged in their hearts. Their senior brother Ning could actually kill a Grand Luo? Am I seeing things, or is Jiang Wei really dead? Li Si could not help but look at Bai Xingxue and Ji Shan. You're not seeing things. Jiang Wei is really dead. Ji Shan said coldly. His gaze fell upon Ning Qi as he hesitated. However, after a few breaths, he did not make a move in the end because he was afraid. Even someone like Jiang Wei was killed by a single arrow. He was afraid that he would not even have the chance to test Ning Qi's strength before he was killed by the arrow as well. Dying like this was not worth it at all. Bai Xingxue did not say anything. He had been staring at Ning Qi since Jiang Wei was killed, clenching and unclenching his fists several times. That Bao was at least a superior-grade Dao weapon. That's the only way to explain how he was able to kill Jiang Wei with a single arrow. That's right, Ji Tianming must have died to that Bao as well. Even my middle-grade Dao weapon was destroyed because of it. Although Bai Xingxue thought of that and the flames of greed burned brightly in his heart, he did not dare to act recklessly because he was afraid that Ning Qi would shoot another arrow and make him end up like Jiang Wei. What did superior-grade Dao weapons mean? Perhaps some low-level immortals might not be able to fully appreciate the power of a high-grade Dao weapon, but Bai Xingxue, Li Si, Ji Shan, and every other Grand Luo present could. They were no fools. After Jiang Wei's death, they all thought of the Bao in Ning Qi's hands. Ning Qi had already put it away, so there was no chance for him to take a closer look. High-grade Dao artifacts basically only existed in the hands of primordial unity true immortals. Even the geniuses among the profound immortals could only use high-grade mid-grade Dao artifacts because high-grade Dao artifacts were so rare that many primordial unity true immortals didn't even have one. All of this was because of the Great War of Immortals and Demons. Before the Great War, the immortal world was extremely rich in resources. Whether it was immortal artifacts or Dao artifacts, they were enough to use. But after the Great War, the resources of the immortal world plummeted countless times. Many Dao artifacts were destroyed in that war, and many artificers died. Because of that battle, many inheritances had disappeared. As a result, there were very few Dao treasures in the celestial realm. In the celestial realm, immortal emperors basically didn't take action, and immortal monarchs rarely appeared, except for some major events that could affect the entire celestial realm. Moreover, the number of immortal monarchs was also very small. As a result, primordial unity true immortals basically became the top experts in the celestial realm. For example, Profound Azure Mansion could run amok in the heavenly ancient celestial realm because they had a primordial unity true immortal. Wuji, who had a grudge against someone, could directly extract their divine soul and make it into a divine soul aura card. No one objected to this because primordial unity true immortals basically represented the highest combat power in the celestial realm. The immortal monarchs and immortal emperors were like nuclear weapons that were rarely used. Only such existences were qualified to use a magic artifact. How strong would it be? At least, even a profound immortal would be afraid of it, even if this magic artifact was in the hands of an earth immortal. Just when everyone was shocked and speechless, Ning Qi was still standing on the peak of the Guijian Chou mountain, his posture unchanged. Just like this, after 24 hours, Ning Qi suddenly disappeared in front of everyone. When Li Si and the others saw this, they quickly scanned with their divine will but found nothing. How could an earth immortal vanish so abruptly right under the noses of so many Grand Luo? What kind of technique was this? On the other hand, the immortals from the homeworld suddenly remembered that Ning Qi had been able to escape the encirclement of the golden immortals of various sects because of his elusive movements, winning a beautiful battle that ended with Leng Yuan being knocked out with 3 strikes of the rod. Therefore, when they saw this scene, they were not too surprised. Only the immortals who participated in this battle, like Leng Yuan, had a slightly strange expression on their faces. Big Brother is safe. The corner of Ying Zhenxuan's lips curled up slightly. She then called out to the disciples of the Xianjian sect and flew towards the Xianjian sect. As Ying Zhenxuan and the others left, many Grand Luo also left the Guijian Chou mountain with a belly full of shock and confusion. In the end, only a few people stayed where they were, including Li Si and the other 2. They used all kinds of methods to search around, but in the end, they could not find any trace of Ning Qi. He really disappeared. What kind of immortal art is this? Li Si looked shocked. To be honest, this was even more shocking than Ning Qi killing Jiang Wei. Killing Jiang Wei could be said to be the advantage of a Dao item, but suddenly disappearing like this was completely the opponent's own method. With such a method, did it not mean that even Grand Luo would find it extremely difficult to kill him? I heard that this kid was not born in the ancestral planet, but came here halfway and joined the Xianjian sect. Ji Shan said flatly. You mean? Li Si looked at Ji Shan. He might have another master, Ji Shan said. Li Si nodded thoughtfully, somewhat agreeing with that theory. If Ji Shan's guess was right, then Ning Qi's master was rather terrifying. Bai Xingshue's expression was a little ugly. He had planned to kill Ning Qi with Jiang Wei's hands, but he did not expect that Ning Qi was not dead, and was even suspected to have an extraordinary background. It made him feel as if he had eaten a mouthful of dog shit. This is getting more and more interesting. I've decided to stay in the ancestral planet. Remember to send me a message when that kid appears. Li Si suddenly broke into a smile. For some reason, he was very happy that Jiang Wei was dead. Perhaps it was because Jiang Wei had condensed 20 Dao fruits, which brought him great pressure. The top cultivation training ground. Ning Qi spent a month to recover his strength. He had stood on the peak of the Guijian Chou mountain for 24 hours to get himself out of combat mode. Otherwise, if Bai Xingxue and the others found out that he was out of strength and in a weakened state, they would definitely take the opportunity to attack. Chapter 25-23. Killing Jiang Wei this time only gave him 100 merit points and some Joss flames, but the drawbacks were even greater. But to Ning Qi, Jiang Wei had announced to the world on the forum that he was coming to execute Ning Qi. It would have been fine if Ning Qi did not have the ability to do so, but since he had the ability to fight, then he would give it a try. However, the result was that Ning Qi succeeded in killing Jiang Wei with a single arrow with his early-stage heavenly immortal cultivation. Although a large part of it was due to the immortal execution bow, if Ning Qi wasn't a dual cultivator of the immortal and demon path, he wouldn't have been able to pull the bow. At least this proves that merit points increase tenfold according to the opponent's strength. Killing a Grand Luo earns me 100 merit points, and if I kill a Mystic Immortal, it would be 1,000. There should still be a lot of people waiting outside. I might as well use this time to go into seclusion. Ning Qi took out the celestial talisman. He was very grateful that Li Xian could give him such a good item at this time. He did not need to leave the top cultivation training ground to obtain cultivation resources from the celestial black market. Ning Qi had more than 3 million celestial coins, so he opened another thread in the black market to purchase the spiritual materials needed for the golden mystic pill. The celestial black market was a market open to the upper echelons of the entire immortal realm, so the spiritual materials needed to refine the golden mystic pill would not be too expensive, at least lower than in the ancestral star. But if he bought a small amount, people might not care, so Ning Qi decided to use 500,000 celestial coins to purchase the spiritual materials needed for the golden mystic pill. The celestial black market was a market open to the upper echelons of the immortal realm, so the price of the spiritual materials needed to refine the golden mystic pill would not be too high, at least lower than in the ancestral star. Ning Qi did not look at the betting thread on the forum again, but re-edited the thread to purchase the ancient demon's corpse with a high price and made it top again. Although it was only for a breath's time, there were many users in the celestial black market, and a breath's time was enough for many to see the thread. In less than a few days, Ning Qi bought a dozen more ancient demons' corpses, but they were not as good as the ones sold to him by Yi Gaian. They were just ordinary ancient demons' corpses. Solo under the curtain of night. Please add me as a friend. As long as you have enough heavenly coins, I have the best ancient demon corpses here. After Ning Qi saw the post, he added the other party as a friend and started chatting with him. The solo under the night curtain said that the ancient demon's corpse was of a very high grade and was very terrifying. When it was alive, it might have been an ancient demon at the level of a Tai genuine immortal. The king sent me to patrol the mountains. How can you prove it? Solo in the night. If you're not satisfied, you can apply for a refund. It's just the corpse of an ancient demon, what's the point of lying to you? The king sent me to patrol the mountain. Your ancient demon's corpse is selling for 300,000 heavenly coins. How many low-grade Tao artifacts can you buy with that amount of money? Solo under the curtain of night. I see that you have purchased quite a number of ancient demon corpses. They must be very useful to you. If you don't buy them, you will miss this opportunity. The king sent me to patrol the mountain. I'm not buying. You're not the only one selling the ancient demon's corpse. Solo under the curtain of night. Tell me, how much are you going to offer? The king sent me to patrol the mountain. 30,000 heavenly coins. Solo in the night curtain of night did not seem to expect Ning Qi to bargain like this. After a long time, he came to his senses. If you really want it, 250,000. Ning Qi did not reply. In the next few days, Ning Qi bought quite a number of ancient demon corpses from other people. However, ancient demon corpses were not something that everyone could get their hands on all the time. There were no new sellers, so Ning Qi focused on purchasing the profound golden pill. This time, he wanted to dual cultivate. He wanted to do it at the same time. During this period, Solo in the night curtain of night looked for Ning Qi many times, but Ning Qi ignored him. In the end, when he offered a heart-wrenching price, Ning Qi replied, 150,000 heavenly coins, the lowest price. Deal. The following transactions were completed smoothly. Solo in the night curtain of night did not say a word. An ancient demon's corpse that covered the sky appeared above Ning Qi. This was even higher grade than the ancient demon's corpse that he had bought from Yiwan Han. Its body was tens of thousands of feet long. What kind of concept was that? 30,000 meters, that was a body that was 30 kilometers long. Ning Qi nodded in satisfaction. To be able to buy an ancient demon's corpse of this grade with 150,000 heavenly coins was indeed a huge profit. However, in the immortal world, Ning Qi was probably the only person who would buy ancient demons' corpses in large quantities. Strictly speaking, Solo in the night curtain of night had also made a profit. The grade of your ancient demon's corpse is not bad. Ning Qi sent a message to Solo in the night curtain of night. Message transmission failed. The other party has blacklisted you. And Ning Qi was silent for a long time. Then, he put away the all-heaven talisman. The profound golden pill was a 4th-grade elixir. In the immortal world, elixirs were divided into 9 grades. It was the same as the ones in the central mainland, but the effects were very different. The difficulty was also multiplied. The difficulty of refining the profound golden pill was at least 10 times harder than the 3rd-grade heavenly spirit pill. Ning Qi could form the pill in 10 days at the beginning. After more than 100 years, he slowly shortened the time to 5 days. Each time, he formed about 3 pills. The grade of the pills also ranged from 4th-grade inferior grade to top grade. This was already Ning Qi's limit. There was almost no loss of spiritual materials. In more than 100 years, I've only refined a total of 15,000 profound golden pills. I might as well use heavenly coins to buy finished elixirs. Ning Qi muttered to himself and casually threw a profound golden pill into his stomach. Boom! Majestic immortal Qi surged out of the pill sea like a wave and swept towards Ning Qi's 3rd immortal meridian. Ning Qi's eyes flashed with a hint of surprise. He originally thought that the effect of the profound golden pill was only about 10 times stronger than the heavenly spirit pill, but the effect was at least 100 times stronger. As he swallowed the pills one by one, Ning Qi's body emitted a faint layer of immortal Qi mist. This mist shrouded Ning Qi and his aura was rising at a speed visible to the naked eye. You should come as well. Ning Qi looked up at the surrounding ancient demons' corpses and the corner of his mouth curled up. In the next moment, he turned into a half-immortal half-demon state. One side of his face looked incomparably sacred, while the other side had a trace of evil aura. At the same time, he absorbed immortal chi and devil chi. The immortal chi cultivated the internal, while the devil chi tempered the body. This was dual cultivation. Gradually, Ning Qi entered a magical state. He lost track of time. After an unknown number of years, his immortal Dao cultivation had reached the peak of early-stage devil Dao cultivation. Chapter 25-24. Insider news: after watching the livestream, my patriarch said that it was a divine Bao that was a superior grade Dao item. Anyone going to the ancestral star? Please leave a message in the thread. Only experts above the heavenly immortal realm. A superior grade Dao item has appeared in the ancestral star in such a short time. The words of the Yixuan sect's patriarch have come true. I guess an innate spirit treasure will be born in the ancestral star soon. The replies to this post were all filled with disbelief and doubt. What kind of joke was this? Would an innate spirit treasure appear so easily? The only innate spirit treasure in this world seemed to be the whip in the Langya immortal emperor's hand. Apart from these posts, there was also a highlighted post that was followed by many people. The poster's surname was Jiang and his name was Donglai. Jiang Wei's death on the ancestral star is a blood feud. My patriarch has learned of this and will soon come to the ancestral star. It was just a short sentence, but it caused a huge uproar. A Tai true immortal coming to the ancestral star? What was he trying to do? With Jiang Wei's status in the Jiang family, wouldn't the Jiang family patriarch bury the entire ancestral star with him if he died? Even if he could bear with it, the Yingzhou where Ning Beixian was would be bathed in blood, and the ancestral prefecture where the Yuqing sect was located would not be any better. Jiang Donglai's post had received more than 100,000 replies. More and more immortals wanted to see the might of a Tai true immortal with their own eyes and chose to head to the ancestral star. Apart from that, they also wanted to see Ning Qi in reality, since he had killed a prodigy like Jiang Wei with a single arrow. Even if he died in the future, he would leave some traces in the immortal realm, and they wanted to see him before he died so that they would not have any regret. The Yuqing sect. How could this person be so powerful? Looks like he knew that Jiang Wei would die by Ning Beixian's hands, or why didn't he stop Jiang Wei that day? The three Jiang family mystic immortals stood in the void in a sorry state, facing off against the Yuqing patriarch. The atmosphere was very cold, and the Yuqing patriarch looked calm and relaxed, not at all like he had just fought three beings of the same level. On the other hand, the three profound immortals of the Jiang family were not only in a sorry state, but they also had many injuries on their bodies. These injuries were constantly gushing with blood, because there was a trace of the great Dao aura left by old ancestor Yuqing on them. After fighting with old ancestor Yuqing, he discovered that his means were too terrifying. It was very easy for him to fight against the three of them. Even when the three of them took out their trump cards, they couldn't do anything to old ancestor Yuqing. In this way, they finally understood why old ancestor Jade Clear stayed in Jade Clear School and didn't make a move, not because he was afraid of the three of them, but because he knew Ning Qi would be fine. I didn't expect there to be a perfected mysterious immortal hidden in the ancestral star. You're already half a step into the realm of primordial unity true immortal. A Jiang family profound immortal said after a moment of silence. The other two profound immortals were unwilling to admit it, but only a perfection stage profound immortal could defeat the three of them so easily. According to the previous intelligence, old ancestor Yuqing had always been at the early stage of Xian immortal. Today, they even wanted to kill the elder in charge of intelligence in their family. If you say so, then so be it. Do you still want to fight? Old ancestor Yuqing smiled faintly. The news of Jiang Wei's death has long been spread to the Jiang family. Old ancestor Yuqing, aren't you afraid of being killed by our old ancestor for protecting Ning Beixian? Haha, are you really that naive to think that I don't have a backer? If your old ancestor really dares to come to the ancestral star, he might not be able to walk out of this place like Jiang Wei. Old ancestor Yu Qing said with a smile. Your backer? The three of them looked at each other in shock. Old ancestor Yu Qing was already so strong. His backer must be a primordial unity true immortal. If old ancestor Yu Qing wasn't bluffing, then Jiang Wei's revenge wouldn't be so easy to avenge. If that's the case, then we'll see. You won't stop us if the three of us want to leave, right? The three of them said with uncertainty. Please. Old ancestor Yu Qing smiled faintly. After the three profound immortals of the Jiang family left, old ancestor Yu Qing's eyes showed a hint of solemnity, but then the corner of his mouth curled up. Old ancestor Jiang, you probably don't know why no primordial unity true immortal came to the ancestral star even after the sect master of the Yishuan sect spoke, right? I'm really looking forward to it. It had been more than a decade since Jiang Wei died at Ning Qi's hands. There was no news of Ning Qi or the arrival of the Jiang family in those years. Instead, more and more immortals from other worlds came to the ancestral star, and many immortals from the ancestral star could not help but sigh sometimes. This period of time was the liveliest they had ever seen in the ancestral star. Golden immortals that were once rare were now everywhere, and all of them were extremely powerful and prodigies. Apart from the golden immortals of the Jade Clear sect, the native golden immortals of the ancestral star could hardly last more than 100 moves against these golden immortal prodigies. Jiang Donglai's post on the All Heavens Forum was still highlighted, but there were already people who questioned why the Jiang family had not taken any action after so many years. Were they afraid, or were there other reasons? The Jiang family did not answer any of their questions. Langia Immortal Domain. Central Empire. Jiang family's sacred city. The three mystic immortals who had returned to the Jiang family in a sorry state from the ancestral star led a dozen grand luo, 100 golden immortals, and hundreds of heavenly immortals as they stood reverently in front of a stone chamber. Soon, the doors of the chamber opened, and a hunchbacked elder walked out. The elder's back was almost level with the ground, and he held a dragon-headed staff in his right hand as he slowly walked up to them. His haggard face had a pair of eyes that shone brightly, and everyone, including the three mystic immortals, felt their hairs stand on end when the elder's gaze swept past them. Jiang Wei died on the ancestral star? The elder asked flatly. Yes. The three mystic immortals looked at each other and nodded with a pained expression, with a hint of fear in the depths of their eyes. It's a pity that he was the only one among so many in the Jiang family who had the chance to inherit my mantle. I feel a little pained that he died on the ancestral star. The elder sighed. Among the dozen or so grand luo standing behind the three mystic immortals, 4 or 5 of them were younger. Their eyes flashed with a hint of dissatisfaction when they heard the elder's words, but they dared not show it in front of the elder and could only lower their heads. All of you stay in the Jiang family. I'm going to the ancestral star to take a look. The elder's figure shifted slightly and vanished where he was, but the faint presence he left behind lingered for 10 breaths. It was only after that the three mystic immortals looked at each other, their foreheads drenched in sweat, feeling a little relieved. After all, their responsibility was to protect Jiang Wei, and yet he had died on the ancestral star. It would be a dereliction of duty for them to die on the ancestral star. Yu Qing would not be able to protect Ning Beixian now that the elder is here. One of the mystic immortals said. The other 2 mystic immortals nodded at his words. At the same time, Ning Qi's figure appeared in the Gui's worry again. He picked a direction and sped away. Half a month later, in a remote town in the Juku province, a pill that looked like a stone appeared in Ning Qi's hand. Chapter 25-25. Ning Qi once thought that if the old man who imparted the emotion extinguishing swordsmanship to Old Man Mysterious Sword was really immortal, perhaps only a mortal could master the emotion-extinguishing swordsmanship. Therefore, he searched for similar posts in the All Heavens forum to see if there was anyone in a similar situation as him. In the end, he really found a method. Mortalization. Many existences above the grand heavenly realm would adopt such a method when they encountered a bottleneck, when comprehending some special cultivation technique or encountered a bottleneck in their cultivation. They would turn into a mortal and comprehend the mysteries within from the insignificant. Therefore, a mighty figure invented a type of pill, the mortalization pill. After reading many posts about turning into a mortal, Ning Qi came to a realization. Perhaps the old man back then was a mighty figure who was in the process of turning into a mortal. As for Old Man Mysterious Sword, he didn't know that there was a path to turning into a mortal in this world, so he treated the old man as a real mortal. Of course, this was only a possibility. As for the truth, perhaps only the old man who left behind the emotion-extinguishing swordsmanship would know. Ning Qi spent a total of 300,000 heaven-grade coins to purchase a mortalization pill. The mortalization pill had no grade because it was a special pill. However, according to the guy who sold it, as long as one was willing to mortalize, even a Tai true immortal could become a mortal after consuming this pill. After becoming a mortal, it would depend on one's comprehension ability when one could regain their cultivation. If one could comprehend the reason why one wanted to mortalize, one would be able to be ranked as an immortal again. If one could not comprehend it, one might really end up like a mortal, dying of old age, illness, or due to natural or man-made disasters. The reason why Ning Qi became a mortal was because of the emotion-extinguishing swordsmanship. In other words, if he did not comprehend the principles behind the emotion-extinguishing swordsmanship, he might not be able to regain his previous cultivation. However, if he did, he might not even need the immortal extermination bow. By killing a grand heavenly realm expert, he would truly have the strength to protect himself in this world. The risk was great. The rewards were also great. Bluestone Town. Half a month later, as Bluestone Town was located at the junction of several other big cities, there were a lot of merchants coming and going. Ning Qi, a new face, was able to blend in well with this place. Ning Qi bought the busiest shop along the street and spent about 10 times the price of the supermarket to buy the original shop. Only then did the first shop's owner mercilessly hand over the shop to Ning Qi, and he took his family to the neighboring city to retire and enjoy a happy life. Ning Qi did not start selling furs again. Instead, he opened a blacksmith shop. Every day, the owners of the nearby shops could hear Ning Qi's half-closed door and the clanking sounds of iron forging coming from inside. A month later, the door was opened again, and the counter where the furs had been placed was now covered with a silver glow. A flowing sword. Since he had chosen the path of becoming immortal, Ning Qi temporarily forgot everything in the past. The matters of the cultivation world had nothing to do with him. Even when he occasionally heard merchants talking about immortals gathering at certain places, Ning Qi ignored them. He blended in very well with the role of a sword seller, patiently answering the questions of those who came to ask him about his sword. Ning Qi's sword was not an immortal sword, but it was still a rare top-grade sword among mortals. After the shop opened, there would be merchants passing by every day, bringing along a few swords. Business was not booming, but it was enough for Ning Qi to get by. "Little Qi, these are a few pieces of baked sesame seed cakes made by my wife. You haven't had lunch today, have you? Go ahead, don't stand on ceremony." The shopkeeper who sold silk across the street smiled as he walked into the shop with a few pieces of baked sesame seed cakes and placed them in front of Ning Qi. When his eyes swept across the swords that Ning Qi had personally forged, a hint of envy flashed across his eyes. "Thank you, shopkeeper Chen." Ning Qi smiled and nodded. He took the baked sesame seed cake and swallowed it in a few bites. Then, he smiled at Chen Asen and said, "The baked sesame seed cake is delicious. I think you can open another sesame seed cake stall. Business will definitely be booming. Seeing Ning Qi's sincere praise, Chen Asen was also happy. I can't bear for your sister-in-law to show her face in public. By the way, little Qi, your sword-forging skills, was it passed down from your ancestors, or did you learn from someone? I guess it was passed down from my ancestors. Ning Qi smiled and nodded. At this time, a strong man walked into the shop, his eyes bright and piercing. Seeing this, Chen Asen returned to the silk shop across the street with a smile. Are you the boss here? The strong man looked around and then looked at Ning Qi. Yes, sir. Are you looking to buy a sword? You can choose any sword here. One sword costs 20 taels of silver, no bargaining. Ning Qi smiled. 20 taels of silver is very cheap. The strong man was stunned for a moment. He was originally a famous swordsman in the neighboring giant city. Some time ago, he saw some high-quality swords in the hands of several merchants. He was curious and asked all the way to Bluestone Town. He didn't expect that these swords, which were of excellent quality in his eyes, were only sold for 20 taels of silver. 20 taels of silver, it was really strange. Not long after, the strong man chose a sword and threw an ingot of silver worth 30 taels of silver. Without waiting for Ning Qi to give him the change, he strode away. In the next few days, Chen Asen often came to Ning Qi's shop. He didn't know why he felt comfortable when he saw Ning Qi. It seemed that standing at Ning Qi's side for a while made him feel refreshed. This feeling made Chen Asen find Ning Qi to chat with when he had nothing to do, except when Ning Qi was forging swords. My husband, the food is getting cold. On this day, Chen Asen was chatting with Ning Qi as usual. He was so excited that he even forgot the time. It wasn't until a woman with a delicate face came into the shop with a 3-year-old baby that Chen Asen remembered that it was time for dinner. Little Qi, you haven't seen your sister-in-law, right? Come, let me introduce you. Chen Asen introduced the woman with a smile. The 3-year-old was Chen Asen's son. Chen Asen was already over 40 years old and had a son in his old age. He loved his son very much and specially found a scholar to name him Chen Huan. Uncle Little Qi, can I touch these swords? Chen Huan's big eyes suddenly flashed. Ning Qi smiled. They are a bit sharp. Aren't you afraid of cutting your hand? Chen Huan, no, no. He was not afraid, but Chen Asen was. After all, Chen Huan was his precious son. Ning Qi's swords looked very sharp, so how could he dare to let Chen Huan touch them? So he coaxed and lied to Chen Huan to take him away. Before leaving, Chen Asen invited Ning Qi to eat with him, but Ning Qi declined with a smile. Chapter 25-26. Everyone in Bluestone Town looked up into the sky. Someone sighed. Another deity seeking revenge. Maybe they're looking for someone. Speaking of which, deities are really powerful. We don't even know where they are, but even we can hear them so clearly. Someone said enviously. Chen Asen also ran out of the shop and looked up at the empty sky. To mortals like them, the world of deities was too far away. Many people dreamed of becoming deities, roaming the 4 seas and living as long as heaven and earth. However, there were very few who could really achieve their wish, because to become a deity, one had to at least find the place where the deities lived. There were so many mortals in the world, and only a few had the chance to do so. What they didn't know was that the immortals, who were extremely powerful in their eyes, were just as shocked as they were when they heard this. In the 10 prefectures of the ancestral star, everyone from human immortals to Zenith Heaven Golden Immortals were shocked by Jiang Feng's arrival. Even a mystic immortal could not do such a thing, right? They had already guessed who Jiang Feng was. The Jiang family's ancestral patriarch of the Central Empire, Tai True Immortal Jiang Feng. Mystic Sword Sect. Missing Moon Peak. Ing Zhenxuan looked worried after hearing Jiang Feng's words. She had not seen or heard any news about Ning Qi in the past 10 years. Many people guessed that Ningqi had secretly left the ancestral star out of fear of the Jiang family's revenge. At this moment, Ing Zhenshuan hoped that their guess was correct. The main peak, Shi Yifan, Nailan Shiji, He Zhe, and the other true disciples who were in seclusion all came out and looked up into the sky. Unlike the other 9 prefectures, the deities in Yingzhou could clearly see a figure standing in the void, seemingly looking down at them. This senior should be the Jiang family's ancestral patriarch, Nailan Shiji said. Shi Yifan and the others nodded. The Jiang family's ancestral patriarch is a Tai true immortal. I wonder if junior brother Ning will continue to hide when he comes to the ancestral star? Shi Yifan smiled faintly. He Zhe and the others burst out laughing when they heard this. Jiang Feng stood in the void with his back hunched, and a few breaths later, many figures darted toward him. The first to appear before Jiang Feng was the Jade Clear Patriarch, followed closely by the mysterious Sword Elder and the various sect leaders of the homeworld. None of them who had reached the realm of Grand Luo dared to hide their presence. Noodles, a primordial unity true immortal, was already a top-notch expert in the immortal world. As long as immortal emperors and immortal monarchs did not appear, a primordial unity true immortal was the strongest force. Greetings, Senior Jiang. Everyone cupped their hands in greeting. There were many Grand Luo now, and they were a dozen times more than the Grand Luo that were originally on the homeworld. All of them had come from beyond world. Jiang Feng smiled and glanced at old ancestor Yu Qing. However, he ignored him and looked at Bai Xingxue. How is your master these days? Master's health has always been good. Thank you for your concern, Senior Jiang. Bai Xingxue cupped his hands. It was only then that the Grand Luo were certain that Bai Xingxue's master was a primordial unity true immortal as well. Jiang Feng chuckled and nodded. His gaze swept past Ji Shan, Li Si, and finally landed on old ancestor Yu Qing. Yu Qing, I remember that you came to my Jiang family when you were young. It has been years since we last met, and your cultivation has already far surpassed the prodigies of your generation in my Jiang family. Old ancestor Yu Qing smiled at those words. You flatter me, Senior Jiang. You know very well whether I am flattering you or not. Still, I have only one purpose in coming to the homeworld today. Where is Ning Beixian? Why isn't he here? I want to see what kind of genius could kill that useless disciple of mine with a single arrow. Jiang Feng smiled. Beixian must have left the homeworld. You came at the wrong time, Senior Jiang. Why don't I bring him to the Jiang family the next time he returns to the homeworld so that you can see for yourself? Old ancestor Yu Qing smiled. I've already sent a message to the eccentric mystic sect before I came. Ning Beixian is still on the homeworld. Are you thinking that I'm a little old and muddle-headed that you can fool me? Due to Jiang Feng's hunchback, he basically had to look up when he spoke to others. As such, he should have appeared weak, but now, he was making everyone's heart palpitate. Beixian is still on the homeworld? Old ancestor Yu Qing smiled in slight surprise. Perhaps I'm not a good master, to not even know that he's still on the homeworld. You don't know where he is? It's fine. There are 10 provinces in the homeworld, and as far as I know, Ning Beixian was born in Yingzhou. Perhaps he would come out on his own after I've refined it? Jiang Feng said with a smile. Old Man Mystic Sword and the other Grand Luo from Yingzhou were taken aback at once. Did he mean to refine the entire Yingzhou? Grand Luo possessed the power to overturn rivers and seas. As for how powerful profound immortals were, they did not know since no one on the homeworld was a match for old ancestor Yu Qing, but they were certain that a Tai true immortal would not only have the power to refine Yingzhou, he could even refine the entire homeworld. Senior Jiang Feng, Jiang Wei didn't die in my hands, nor did he die in the hands of any Grand Luo. He died in the hands of a junior whose cultivation realm was several levels lower than his. This duel is fair. Isn't it a little too much for you to want to refine the entire Yingzhou to avenge Jiang Wei? Are you bullying the weak? Old ancestor Yu Qing smiled. Jiang Feng sighed. Just as the others thought that he was a little embarrassed by old ancestor Yu Qing's words, Jiang Feng continued, I've poured too much effort into Jiang Wei, and now that he has died on the homeworld, I'm very angry. Either I take Ning Beixian away, or I sacrifice the trillions of lives on Yingzhou to Jiang Wei. There is no other way to dispel the rage in my heart. Yu Qing, do you understand? Pausing, he looked at Old Man Mystic Sword and the other Grand Luo from Yingzhou. Do you understand, everyone? Everyone was silent. Who would dare to speak? Senior Jiang Feng, I understand. Bai Xingxue suddenly spoke. Jiang Feng glanced at him and nodded with a smile. That's right. If you had died on the homeworld, your master would have personally come to avenge you. I don't understand. An old voice echoed from below. Everyone was taken aback when they heard the voice and looked down. Old Man Mystic Sword's expression was the most shocked, with a hint of disbelief in his eyes. An old man who did not have any immortal qi around him, as if he was immortal, was walking in the air toward Jiang Feng. Although old ancestor Yu Qing's expression did not change when he saw the old man, there was a hint of a smile in his eyes. As expected, the old man is still alive. Chapter 25-27. I don't quite understand. The old man walked up to Jiang Feng one step at a time. The Grand Luo around him instinctively made way, all of them looking at the old man in confusion. Who was this old man? Old man, is that you? Old Man Mysterious Sword could not help but ask. He looked at the old man with uncertainty. The Grand Luo around him were even more shocked. Old Man Mysterious Sword knew this old man? Moreover, his tone was unusually respectful. The old man glanced at Old Man Mysterious Sword and smiled without saying a word. His eyes then fell on Jiang Feng. Who are you? Jiang Feng's expression became a little more solemn. Just an old man waiting for death. My name is not important. What's important is it true that you want to refine Yingzhou? The old man smiled. Yes, it's true. Jiang Feng nodded. The old man smiled and suddenly looked beyond the homeworld. His gaze seemed to pierce through the boundless deep space of the universe. At the same time, many pairs of eyes that were focused on the homeworld at the same time showed a look of surprise. He's really still alive. Jiang Feng can't leave. It's a wise decision for us not to go to the homeworld. You may leave. The old man withdrew his gaze and calmly said to Jiang Feng, and don't ever set foot on the homeworld again. The Grand Luo around gasped inwardly when they heard the old man's words, becoming very curious about the old man's identity. The fact that he could speak to Jiang Feng like that meant that he was no ordinary person. Could he be a Tai true immortal? But since when did a Tai true immortal that they had never seen appear on the homeworld? The Jiang family would really become a joke if I leave today. Since you're not willing to tell me your name, let's fight and see if you can stop me from refining Yingzhou. Jiang Feng smiled. You don't even know that you've become someone else's pawn. What a joke. The old man waved softly before shaking his head and leaving. Old Man Mysterious Sword wanted to chase after him, but the old man disappeared from his sight in the blink of an eye as if he had never been there. He's leaving just like that? Everyone was a little confused. Could the old man have been trying to persuade Jiang Feng to leave with his mouth? Thinking of this, everyone quickly looked at Jiang Feng, only to find that Jiang Feng remained motionless, staring in the direction where the old man had left. Why is there such a powerful being on the ancestral star? Suddenly, Jiang Feng said something that left everyone puzzled. In the very next moment, he was beheaded right in front of every Grand Luo present and the Jade-Clear Patriarch. Hiss! Every Grand Luo including Bai Xingxue, Li Si, and Ji Shan inhaled sharply at the sight, staring at the scene before them in disbelief. How did Jiang Feng die? What was going on? How could a primordial unity genuine celestial die quietly in front of them? That old man. Everyone finally understood why Jiang Feng would say those confusing words before he died. They were sure that Jiang Feng's death was related to the old man, but from the beginning to the end, they did not see the old man make a move. Where did that senior come from? Bai Xingxue and the others looked at each other and then at Old Man Mysterious Sword, their expressions uncertain. Only Old Man Mysterious Sword acted like it was not his first time meeting that old man. Let's go. After today, primordial unity genuine celestial beings would have to think twice before coming to the ancestral star. The Jade Clear Patriarch smiled and turned to leave. However, the other Grand Luo could not recover from their shock for a long time, and only looked at Old Man Mysterious Sword after the Jade Clear Patriarch left. Mysterious Sword, who is that senior? Is he a cultivator of our ancestral star? Patriarch Stone River's expression was somber. There was a hint of delight in Old Man Mysterious Sword's eyes even though he did not make the old man stay. In response to Patriarch Stone River's question, Old Man Mysterious Sword glanced at the Grand Luo present and laughed softly. I'm not sure if he's a cultivator of the ancestral star, but his sword is definitely the strongest in the ancestral star. Sword? Did that old man just cut down Jiang Feng with a single strike? Everyone had a puzzled look on their faces. His sword was so fast that they could not detect it with their eyes or divine will. How terrifying was that? If he could easily cut down a superior being like Jiang Feng with a single strike, wouldn't that senior be an immortal sovereign? Everyone looked at each other and saw the shock and astonishment in each other's eyes. That sword is probably the only one who could block it? A blue-robed man riding a dragon muttered to himself deep in the immortal world, before glancing in the direction of the Langya immortal domain. Meanwhile, in a small town on a planet, an old man carrying a gourd on his back drank the wine in his cup and could not help sighing. What's the use of cultivating to the level of primordial unity true immortal? Without brains, one can only be a pawn for others for the rest of their life. To think that the old immortal emperor is still stubbornly living on. After this, Langya should restrain itself a little, right? The old immortal emperor is not dead yet, but he might not be able to swing his sword much longer. Would the ancestral star still exist when he dies? The birthplace of immortals? It's also the birthplace of the ancient immortals. In the universe, a white-robed man carrying a long sword on his back muttered to himself, but his tone was filled with endless vicissitudes of life. In the Langya immortal domain, a young man sat in front of an old man wearing a Taoist robe. The old man had a head of white hair, but his complexion was extremely ruddy. If it weren't for the heavy chains piercing through his shoulder blades and kneecaps, the old man would look like a carefree cultivator who had truly transcended the three realms. The young man was silent for a moment and said, "According to fate, the old immortal emperor should have died a long time ago. Why did he linger on for so many years?" Langya, you know the answer. Why do you have to ask me? The Taoist-robed old man chuckled. I'm just a little afraid, which is why I came to you. The old immortal emperor is his disciple. He has already lost, and so have all of you. Is the old immortal emperor still waiting for him to return after so many years? The young man smiled bitterly. The Taoist-robed old man smiled. Even the Langya immortal emperor, the number one on the heavenly Tao ranking, feels a little afraid? Old Lord, please don't laugh at me. Compared to you and him, I'm afraid my title as an immortal emperor is unworthy. I'm just a puppet of theirs. The young man smiled and shook his head. At the end of the day, you're also starting to think that he will return, right? Don't worry, you've been very respectful to me all these years. If he really does return, I'll persuade him to spare your life. Chapter 25-28. Of course I know. They want to borrow our bodies to see if he will come back. Unfortunately, with my understanding of him, if he really does come back one day, then the sky will change. They may have won all these years, but they are still afraid. Why else would they not dare to kill us? They're just afraid that he would come back one day. The elder in the Taoist robe said with a smile. The youth was slightly taken aback when he heard that. He then stood up and cupped his hands at the elder. I'll take my leave first. I'll visit you again in 100 years. With that, the youth turned and left. When the Jiang family learned of Jiang Feng's death, they immediately elected a mystic immortal to take the position of patriarch. Then, the Jiang family announced that they would close their doors and would not meet anyone. As for revenge, they did not even mention it. The primordial unity perfected immortals of the various celestial realms had learned of the news one after another. They looked at the ancestral planet with a hint of horror in their eyes. They were deeply sympathetic to the Jiang clan's misfortune. First, a prodigy Grand Luo was dead, and then Jiang Feng, a Tai true immortal, died on the ancestral star. This indirectly proved that there was a great horror on the ancestral star, and many Tai true immortals who were prepared to go to the ancestral star changed their minds. Unlike the celestial forum that was boiling over the matter, the ancestral star was very quiet. Apart from the Grand Luo, who were present that day, no one knew that Jiang Feng had died on the ancestral star. The Grand Luo on the ancestral star basically had a tacit understanding not to talk about the matter, and the other immortals who heard Jiang Feng's voice only found it strange. Why was there no follow-up after the Jiang family's patriarch came? They speculated that the Jiang family's patriarch and the Jade Clear patriarch had reached some sort of agreement, and that Ning Qi might have been taken away by the Jade Clear patriarch, which was why there was no other movement. Such speculation was not without reason. After all, Ning Qi had disappeared for more than a decade after killing Jiang Wei, and it was hard not to speculate. Could Ning Qi have been suppressed by the Jade Clear patriarch to appease the Jiang family's patriarch's rage? Even within Yuqing school, such a rumor arose. Many Yuqing school disciples had a very good impression of Ning Qi. Some Yuqing school geniuses who obtained a low-grade Dao artifact because of Ning Qi even went straight to ancestor Yuqing's seclusion grounds and knelt on the ground, asking for an answer. However, these geniuses were quickly brought back by their own masters. As for what kind of punishment they would receive for their actions, no one knew. Master. In front of the bamboo building, Kongwen stood respectfully, while Ancestor Yuqing sat in front of the stone table, playing chess just like when Ning Qi first met him. Occasionally, a hoarse and miserable howl could be heard under the chessboard shrouded in mist. "What's up?" Old Ancestor Yuqing said faintly. He picked up a chess piece and put it down. A few more screams came from below the chessboard. "Junior brother," Kongwen's eyes flashed with a trace of hesitation. "Your junior brother is alive and well. As for where he went, I don't know either." Old Master Jade Clear glanced at Kongwen. That's good," Kongwen heaved a sigh of relief. After a pause, he asked curiously, "Master, who are you playing with?" "The Jiang family of the Central Empire." Old Master Jade Clear's lips curled up. "You still don't know that Jiang Feng is already dead. There's no need for the Jiang family to exist. One must remove the roots when cutting weed." As he spoke, he picked up another chess piece and put it down. "Jiang Feng is dead?" Kongwen was dumbfounded. He finally understood why Jiang Feng didn't make the next move. It turned out that he was already dead? Who killed Jiang Feng? Kongwen asked with difficulty. "Your grandmaster." Old Master Jade Clear curled his lips, seemingly dissatisfied with that old man, an eccentric old man with a peerless swordsmanship. He would rather impart the profound sword that he can't comprehend to this day than to me, your master. I still have a grandmaster?" Kongwen was dumbfounded. "If there's nothing else, go out. The three people of the Jiang family are very tenacious. This game of chess won't end without 3 to 5 years. Old Master Jade Clear waved his hand lightly. Yes, master. Kongwen turned and left with a bellyful of shock. As soon as he left, Kongwen suddenly turned around with a stunned expression. He thought of the huge information revealed in Old Master Jade Clear's words. Grandmaster, profound sword, emotion-extinguishing sword art? No wonder Master suddenly went to the Mystic Sword sect and asked for the Mystic Sword ancestors' emotion-extinguishing sword art. After that, he should have fallen into Qi deviation, and the Jade Clear sect should have disappeared from the ancestral star. However, Master suddenly disappeared for a few days, and after a few days, he had already escaped from Qi deviation. After a few days, he had already escaped from Qi deviation and entered the state of Qi deviation. Thinking of this, Kongwen trembled with excitement. He had a grandmaster, and he was so powerful that he could silently kill a Tai true immortal, Jiang Feng. In this way, the Yuqing school would not be any weaker than the top sects in the major immortal domains. At the same time, Langya Immortal Domain, Jiang family's sacred city. In one night, all living beings were plunged into misery and suffering. Millions of Jiang family disciples all died a violent death. Only the three profound immortals were still leading the surviving Jiang family geniuses to fight against the chess pieces that kept falling from the sky. Yuqing, do you have to kill us all? As long as one of us escapes this place today, we will definitely report you to the Langya Immortal Emperor. The three profound immortals struggled to hold on, but every time a chess piece fell, it would aggravate their internal injuries. From time to time, some of the geniuses would die from the shockwaves. Many Jiang family disciples looked up at the sky in despair, clenching their fists as if their hearts were bleeding. They could not understand why the once powerful Jiang family would end up like this. Among these Jiang family disciples stood a woman who seemed to have a rather high status. She was not as wretched as the other Jiang family disciples. Her eyes were empty and filled with despair. It's all because of Ji Tianming. If Ji Tianming hadn't gone to the ancestral star and been killed by Ning Beixian, our Jiang family geniuses wouldn't have gone there out of curiosity and died in Ning Beixian's hands. Uncle Jiang Wei wouldn't have died, and neither would old Master Jiang. Ji Tianming, if I, Jiang Churen, die here today, I won't let you off even as a ghost. A hint of resentment surged in the woman's eyes. She blamed Ji Tianming for the Jiang family's predicament today. However, the name Ning Beixian was deeply engraved in her mind. Just as the three profound immortals of the Jiang family were struggling to hold off old Master Yuqing, a figure appeared outside the Jiang family's holy city. That Yuqing really wants to kill us. Jiang Feng, on account of the fact that we roamed the immortal world together when we were young, I'll leave a trace of your Jiang family's bloodline alive today. The figure muttered to himself and reached out. Jiang Churen, who looked confused, appeared in front of him. What's going on? Jiang Churen looked at the figure in shock. Chapter 25-29. After Jiang Feng's words, the people of Bluestone Town just came out and sighed. Then they went back to their normal lives. For them, the world of immortals was very far away and had nothing to do with them. As long as they were not involved in the fight between the immortals, they would be happy. Ning Qi sold swords in the daytime. Occasionally, he forged swords and practiced swordsmanship. He only practiced the first move of the passionless swordsmanship, stab. It was a simple move, but Ning Qi practiced it tirelessly. Every time, he practiced it until his hand was numb and he couldn't lift it. A few months passed quickly. The reputation of Ning Qi's sword shop seemed to have spread in the neighboring big cities. Every day, there were swordsmen who came to buy swords. Some of them left with 20 taels of silver, some left with 50 taels of silver, and some left with hundreds of taels of silver. Some families even sent their elders to Ning Qi. Ning Qi went to their families to be a dedicated swordsman, but Ning Qi declined all of them. Ning Chi couldn't spend all the money by himself. As long as 1 or 2 child beggars came to his shop to beg for food, Ning Chi would casually throw them some broken silver. Over time, the people of Bluestone Town knew that there was a sword seller named Ning Chi, who was generous with money and had the heart of a Buddha. Little Chi, haven't you noticed that there are a lot of child beggars on our street recently? Chen Asen walked into the shop with a few pancakes and said to Ning Chi. Really? Ning Chi smiled and took the pancakes to eat. You don't give those child beggars anymore. Now even the child beggars in the neighboring town know that there is a kind-hearted sword seller in Bluestone Town. He hangs in front of your shop all day long. Chen Asen said with a wry smile. Ning Chi smiled and didn't reply. It was not the first time that Chen Asen tried to persuade Ning Chi. However, seeing that Ning Chi didn't reply, he didn't continue the topic. Instead, he took a sword from Ning Chi's shop and carefully looked at it. Occasionally, a trace of envy flashed in his eyes. Brother Chen, if you want it, I'll give it to you, Ning Chi said with a smile. No, why should I take a sword? Chen Asen shook his head. Suddenly, a look of reminiscence appeared in his eyes. My silk shop has been here for over 300 years. My ancestors have been running it for generations. Chi, do you know what my dream was when I was a kid? What dream? Ning Chi smiled. I dream that one day I will be able to join an immortal sect. From then on, I will be able to travel the world with my sword. When I meet with injustice, I will draw my sword to help, Chen Asen said. When he said this, Ning Chi saw a trace of holiness on his face. One could imagine how important this dream was in his heart. Ning Chi didn't say anything and waited quietly. Sure enough, Chen Asen continued, at that time, I kept learning from a master because I wanted to learn some kung fu. Even if I couldn't become an immortal, I could still be a hero of my generation. However, my father didn't agree. I was his only son. He wanted me to come back and take over the shop passed down by my ancestors. They quarreled and then left. Unknowingly, Chen Asen's face was already covered in tears. Tears dripped from his chin to the ground, but he didn't realize it. He continued, after 5 years, I didn't accomplish anything. When I returned to Bluestone Town, my father was already seriously ill and on the verge of death. When he was on his deathbed, he told me that he had been worried that I would die. When he was on his deathbed, he told me that he had been worried that I would die in the outside world. He told me to take over the shop in the future and not to make it flourish. I only needed to guard Bluestone Town. Not long after my father passed away, my mother also passed away. Because of my father's illness, the business of the shop wasn't very good. After I took over, it took me more than 5 years to slowly build the business back up. In the end, I married a wife and had children until now. When Chen Asen finished speaking, he realized that he was crying. He wiped his face in embarrassment and smiled at Ning Chi. Little Chi, I'm sorry. The first day I saw your swords, they made me feel a lot of emotions. Daddy, why are you crying? Chen Huan ran into the shop with her short legs. When she saw Chen Asen wiping his tears, she asked with a puzzled expression. It's nothing. Daddy just had sand in his eyes. What are you doing here? Chen Asen picked up Chen Huan and said with a smile. When he saw Chen Huan, the sorrow in Chen Asen's eyes was swept away, leaving only love. I want to see these swords. Can I touch them? Chen Huan said, pointing at the swords in the shop. As he spoke, he stole a glance at Ning Chi. Brother Chen, just let him touch them. Recently, he's been sneaking around in front of the shop. Ning Chi smiled. Okay, I'll touch them. Chen Asen hesitated for a moment and carried Chen Huan to a sword. Chen Huan was overjoyed, but he carefully reached out to touch the body of the sword and immediately withdrew his hand with a satisfied look on his face. Daddy, I've touched them. When I grow up, I want to be like those uncles and have a sword of my own, Chen Huan said. Chen Asen was stunned for a moment and then subconsciously asked, "You want to be a swordsman?" "What's a swordsman?" Chen Huan was stunned. "You're still too young. I'll tell you later," Chen Asen said with a complicated expression. In the following days, Chen Huan would go to Ning Qi's shop from time to play. Sometimes he would come with Chen Asen, and sometimes he would come alone. Time passed unknowingly for 7 or 8 years. During these 7 or 8 years, Chen Huan had become a teenager. In addition to learning how to run a silk shop, his favorite thing to do was to watch Ning Qi forge sword. Chen Huan was the only one who had Ning Qi's permission to watch him forge swords. At that time, this news made other children in Bluestone Town envious. In their short lives, they often heard the adults in their families admire the sword seller. Sometimes, the sword seller's income in a day was equal to their income. Half a year's income made them treat the sword shop as an extremely rare place. Chen Huan, who could watch Ning Qi forge swords, also became their little boss. On this day, Chen Huan came to the sword shop as usual but found that Ning Qi was not there, nor was he forging swords. Behind the sword shop was the small courtyard where Ning Qi lived. Chen Huan thought for a moment and realized that he had never entered the small courtyard. Curiosity made Chen Huan make a decision. "Uncle Qi, are you inside?" Chen Huan whispered at the door. After waiting for a few seconds, he pushed the door open and found Ning Qi practicing swordsmanship in the courtyard. "Ah, Uncle Qi also practices swordsmanship? Is he also a swordsman?" Chen Huan looked surprised. However, after watching for a long time, he found that Ning Qi only knew one move, so he felt that Ning Qi was unlikely to be a swordsman. Bluestone Town was not very peaceful. Occasionally, people would pass through here for revenge. Therefore, the swordsmanship Chen Huan saw from the swordsman was extremely gorgeous, completely different from Ning Qi's. Different. 10 minutes later, Ning Qi sheathed his sword and stood up, sweating profusely. His appearance made Chen Huan even more certain that Ning Qi was not a swordsman. Swordsmen could fly high and low, so how could they be so tired after a few stabs? "Xiao Huan, why did you come to see me?" Ning Qi smiled as he wiped his sweat. "There are guests in my family. Father asked me to invite Uncle Qi over for dinner today." Chen Huan smiled. "Oh? Then let's go. I happen to be hungry." Ning Qi laughed. Chapter 25-30. Following Chen Huan to Chen Asen's house, Ning Qi knew that Chen Asen's brother-in-law had come to visit him. Chen Huan skipped ahead of Ning Qi and led him to the dining room. Chen Asen was already exchanging drinks with another young man. Seeing Ning Qi, Chen Asen immediately waved and said, "Little Qi, come here. Let me introduce you to my brother-in-law, Yan Zhengfeng." Yan Zhengfeng was originally smiling, but when he saw Ning Qi, the trace of a smile at the corners of his mouth gradually disappeared. He gave Ning Qi an indifferent glance. "Ning Qi." Ning Qi smiled, sat down, and introduced himself. Chen Huan seemed to want to sit down too, but Yan Zhengfeng glared at her. "Children eat later. Children can also be hungry." Chen Huan clutched her stomach and left unhappily. Yan Zhengfeng glanced at Chen Huan with a smile and said to Chen Asen, "Brother-in-law, this boy's temper is very similar to mine when I was a child. I happened to pass by this place this time and have something to do. I'll stay here for 5 or 6 days and teach him some martial arts to strengthen his body so that he won't be bullied in the future." "That's great. I know you seem to have a master who is good at swordsmanship. Teach Xiao Huan when you have time." Chen Asen was a little happy. "Good at swordsmanship?" Ning Qi calmly glanced at Yan Zhengfeng. Yan Zhengfeng was already a Qi training level 5 cultivator. It could be said that at this level they were very different from mortals. This was the first time Ning Qi had seen a cultivator in the 7 to 8 years he had been in Bluestone Town. Those before him could only be considered as secular martial artists. They were not at the Qi refining realm. Chen Aisen seemed like he really wanted Ning Qi and Yan Zhengfeng to become friends, but Yan Zhengfeng did not want to talk to Ning Qi and Ning Qi did not want to stick his face to a cold but Miss Chen would occasionally bring up a dish and then leave. In the end, it was Chen Aisen who kept bringing up topics while greeting others. Ning Qi greeted Yan Zhengfeng. By the way, brother-in-law should have heard the loud noise 7 or 8 years ago, right? Yan Zhengfeng suddenly said. Chen Aisen was stunned. What? I'm Jiang Feng. Do you remember the word brother-in-law? Yan Zhengfeng said solemnly. I remember. It was a fight between immortals. It was very loud. Everyone in Bluestone Town heard it. At first, I thought it was an immortal passing by, so I ran out to take a look. Chen Aisen nodded repeatedly. Brother-in-law, I've heard some news. Even among the immortals, that person had quite the background. However, I do know some information about that Ning Beixian that he's looking for. Yan Zhengfeng said with a smile. Ning Qi's eyes moved slightly as he looked at Yan Zhengfeng. What? You even know about these immortals? Tell me quickly. Chen Aisen was a little excited. He quickly filled Ning Qi and Yan Zhengfeng's glasses and said with an expectant look. To mortals, it was the best enjoyment to occasionally hear about the strange happenings of the immortals. Speaking of which, that Ning Beixian is really something. He's a genius among the immortals. The most famous thing about him is that he killed a Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal with a single arrow 10 or 20 years ago. Yan Zhengfeng said with a look of worship. Uncle, what is a Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal? Chen Huan appeared out of nowhere. That's right. What is a Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal? Chen Aisen was also curious. Seeing this, Yan Zhengfeng pulled him into his embrace and said with a smile, Since little Huan is also interested, then I will tell you what I know today. After saying that, he glanced at Ning Qi with a hint of arrogance in his eyes. What I'm going to say today is completely unknown to ordinary people. Even if you hear it, don't spread it. No problem. Shao Qi is also tight-lipped. If you say not to spread it, then we won't. Hurry up and tell us. Don't keep us in suspense. Chen Aisen hurriedly said. It's said that among the immortals, there are also several stages. Immortals at each stage have different means. Human immortal, earth immortal, heaven immortal, golden immortal, and zenith heaven golden immortal. At the zenith heaven golden immortal level, it's very easy to move mountains and drain seas. Brother-in-law, think about it. Brother-in-law, they can destroy the entire Bluestone town, including the nearby cities. How terrifying are their means? Yan Zhengfeng took a deep breath and said slowly. He was just a rookie at the first level of the Qi refining realm, so he didn't know the specific knowledge of these realms. He only knew that Zenith Heaven Golden Immortals could move mountains and drain seas. Move mountains and drain seas? Is that true? Chen Aisen gasped. That was what the legend said, but he thought it was just a legend. He thought that immortals could only move mountains and drain seas. How big was the mountain and how wide was the sea? Wow, immortals are so powerful. Chen Huan also let out an exclamation. Of course it's true. I've seen immortals fight with my own eyes. The two immortals may not be at high levels, just human immortals, but after they finished fighting, the whole mountain was destroyed. Yan Zhengfeng said. A mountain? I've only heard that those powerful swordsmen can cut a tree with one sword. I didn't expect that the means of immortals are so much stronger than those swordsmen, Chen Aisen murmured to himself. Cutting a tree with one sword was his dream. If a tree could be cut down with one sword, it would be even easier to cut off a person's head. Uncle, you mean that Ning? Does he have the same surname as Uncle Qi? Chen Huan suddenly said. It's just the same surname. Yan Zhengfeng glanced at Ning Qi with a faint smile, then shook his head and said to Chen Aisen, Immortals and mortals are different. This is the difference between immortals and mortals. As for cutting a tree with one sword, there was one thing he didn't say. He could do it with his current cultivation. Ningqi could see that Yan Jingfeng's cultivation was already at the level of king of fighters in the Qin Tang Empire. He could cut a tree with one sword and even break a mountain with one sword. He could even walk in the air. However, in the immortal realm, it was impossible for a level 5 Qi refining realm cultivator to fly without the support of an immortal sword. If it was possible, he would have to at least reach the nascent soul realm. Jingfeng, you said that a Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal can move mountains and drain seas. How strong is that? Is that Ning Beixian, who killed a Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal with one arrow, the strongest immortal here? Chen Asen said. The strongest? I don't think so. I only know that he is very, very strong. Yan Jingfeng sighed. After that, he continued to talk about some strange things. Chen Asen kept drinking as he listened, as if he was intoxicated. Chen Huan also treated these things as stories. When it came to interesting places, she would be excited, and when it came to scary places, she would tremble. Chapter 25-31. I heard from my brother-in-law that your swordsmithing skills are quite good. Ever since then, merchants who pass by like to buy a few swords from you. Yan Jingfeng said as he looked at the swords in the shop. A hint of surprise flashed in the depths of his eyes, because the quality of Ning Qi's swords was indeed top-notch among mortals. Who would have thought that a small town like Bluestone Town could have such a capable person? However, for cultivators, these swords with no fluctuations of Dharma power were still mediocre. You flatter me, Brother Chen, Ning Qi said lightly. Yan Jingfeng smiled and said no more. The atmosphere in the shop became somewhat quiet. After about 10 minutes, Yan Jingfeng took out a sword, threw 20 taels of silver to Ning Qi, and turned to leave. With that, he walked out of Bluestone Town. Another 7 or 8 years passed. It had been nearly 20 years since Ning Qi came to Bluestone Town. Chen Huan grew from a 3-year-old child to a young man as strong as a calf. Ning Qi's appearance also changed from 17 or 18 years old to 37 or 38 years old today. Chen Asen's hair had already turned white. When Ning Qi came to Bluestone Town, he was already in his 40s or 50s. After nearly 20 years, he was already close to 70 years old, but his body was still very healthy, not much different from when he was at the beginning. Chen Huan, who originally liked to walk around the sword shop, spent most of his time at home after Yan Jingfeng left and rarely went out. Ning Qi could already feel a trace of spiritual energy fluctuations from his body. Yan Jingfeng said that he taught Chen Huan a way to strengthen her body, but in fact it was the art of cultivation. Chen Asen seemed to be unaware of this, and Chen Huan had no intention of mentioning it. Ning Qi naturally pretended that he had never seen it. Boss Ning, a few days ago I said that I would introduce a virgin to you. Now that her family is here, would you like to meet them first? An old woman walked into the sword shop and said with a smile when she saw Ning Qi. Granny Zhao, I told you that I like to be alone. Don't bother with these things for me in the future. Here are some tonics that I can't finish alone. Take them home. Ning Qi said helplessly. He took out a paper bag from the counter and handed it to the old woman. Granny Zhao took the paper bag without hesitation, but her lips were still moving up and down. Boss Ning, you've been in our Bluestone Town for almost 20 years, right? Tell me, when you were so young, there were so many girls who liked you. Even the young ladies from the big cities sent people to ask me about you. She wanted to take you as her son-in-law, but you refused. Now you're already in your 30s, and you don't want to get married at all. In another 7 or 8 years, do you think there will be any virgins willing to marry you? Ning Qi nodded as he walked Grandma Zhao out. After Granny Zhao left, Chen Asen walked into Ning Qi's shop with his hands behind his back and a smile on his face. He stood side by side with Ning Qi and looked in the direction that Granny Zhao had left. Little Qi, Granny Zhao is here again? Yes. Ning Qi nodded. She's right. You have such good conditions, and you've sold countless swords over the years. You should have found a wife and started a family a long time ago. Otherwise, with your extravagant spending, you won't be able to keep the money you earn for more than a few days. If you give it to those child beggars, which girl will be willing to follow you in the future? Chen Asen advised. Brother Chen, I haven't seen Xiao Huan recently. Where did he go? Ning Qi stealthily changed the topic. As expected, Chen Asen's attention was immediately diverted at the mention of Chen Huan. He said with a wry smile, "A few days ago, this kid said he was going to roam the martial world and ran away without saying a word. If he comes back next time, I'll break his leg." Roam the martial world with his mediocre skills? I hope he doesn't die out there. Mediocre? Ning Qi saw Chen Huan leave quietly on the day that he came to Ning Qi's shop to say goodbye. At that time, Chen Huan's cultivation was already at the second level of qi refining, which was enough for him to roam the world. Chen Huan also asked Ning Qi to take care of Chen Asen while he was away. After all, Chen Asen was already old. Ning Qi was silent for a long time and only said one sentence, "Go back to Bluestone Town when you're tired." At that time, Chen Huan's eyes were filled with tears as if she was very reluctant to leave, but she still held back her tears and quietly left Bluestone Town. Brother Chen, don't worry. I think Xiao Huan is a lucky man. Nothing will happen to him. Ning Qi said with a smile. Thank you for your kind words. Chen Asen nodded. At this time, two beggars, a boy and a girl, walked over from the side of the street. The boy was about 8 or 9 years old, and the girl was only 5 or 6 years old. Her black hands tightly grasped the corner of the boy's clothes and followed him closely, afraid that they would get lost. On the other side of the street, a few fine horses galloped over under the shouts of the knights, causing curses from the surrounding shops. These knights were all carrying weapons, obviously swordsmen and chivalrous men. They only dared to curse in low voices, not openly, lest they invite disaster. The two groups of people, who originally had nothing to do with each other, immediately started cursing because the female beggar subconsciously ran to the middle of the street to pick up a bead that fell from her body, startling the horse running in front and almost throwing the knight off. The male beggar subconsciously shielded the female beggar behind him. After the female beggar found that the bead was not damaged, she carefully put it away and looked at the knights with some fear. You two beggars want to die? The knight, who had almost been thrown off his horse, felt a little embarrassed. He kicked them, and the two thin bodies flew into the air, landing heavily at the corner of the street. When the people on the street saw this, although they didn't like the beggars, they felt indignant when they saw the knight bullying the weak. However, they didn't dare to say anything. Bei Meng, are you all right? The male beggar struggled to get up and checked the female beggar's injury. After finding that she was fine, he heaved a sigh of relief. Brother, you're bleeding. Bei Meng looked at the corner of the male beggar's mouth and stretched out her hand to wipe it. I'm fine. The male beggar shook his head and dodged the little girl's hand, then pulled her up. Wow, your skin is quite thick. You're still alive? The chivalrous man who kicked felt even more embarrassed and wanted to continue beating the two beggars. Warrior, they're just two beggars. Why are you so angry? A voice was heard. When the people in Bluestone Town heard this voice, they basically knew who it was. Boss Ning's kindness is acting up again. Doesn't he know that we can't offend these swordsmen? He's killing people for no reason. Shao Qi, don't make a sound. Chapter 25-32. I was wondering who it was. It turns out to be Mr. Ning, who sells swords in Bluestone Town. The bad-tempered knight was dazed for a second when he saw Ning Qi. Then he glanced at Ning Qi's shop and laughed in a weird way. Ning Qi had opened this shop in Bluestone Town for many years. Countless people had bought swords from him, which made Ning Qi quite famous in the nearby big cities. In the beginning, some people thought that Ning Qi was a master of swordsmanship, and that was why she was so good at forging swords. During that period of time, many powerful masters often locked themselves in Gu Ningqi's place. After many tests, they found that Ningqi was just an ordinary person. But how dare a blacksmith who sells swords speak for these two beggars? Today, I, Wild Cloud Hand, will teach you a lesson. Then, the knight strode into Ningqi's shop with the other two people. They didn't attack Ningqi, but chose to smash it. Bang bang bang! Ningqi was dragged to the silk shop opposite by Chen Asen. In less than 15 minutes, Ningqi's shop was almost smashed. All the swords that Ningqi made by himself fell on the ground. Ningqi looked at this scene indifferently. It seemed that he wasn't angry at all, and his expression didn't change at all. He just smiled indifferently. The people in Bluestone Town were angry, but they didn't dare to say anything. Occasionally, they glanced at Ningqi with pity. A good shop was almost smashed into ruins because of two beggars. That was the consequence of meddling in other people's business. When the two beggars saw this, the female beggar looked terrified, while the male beggar pulled her and stood there, staring at the people who had smashed the table. At the same time, he looked at Ningqi with a trace of gratitude in his eyes. If it wasn't for Ningqi speaking up for them, they might have been killed by these knights, beat to death. Hey, do you still want to stand up for those two beggars, Mr. Ning? After they stopped, the leader looked at Ningqi with a faint smile, and pointed at the two beggars who didn't take the opportunity to run away. You guys should have calmed down. Just let these two beggars go. Ningqi smiled. All right, since you want to speak up for them, these swords will be the compensation for them offending me. The man smiled and nodded his head. Then, he signaled with his eyes, and the other two immediately picked up the swords from the ground. There were at least 20 swords scattered on the ground. If each sword was sold for 20 taels of silver, that would be 400 taels of silver. To the people of Bluestone Town, it was undoubtedly a huge sum of money. Hey, if you guys take Little Chi's sword, how is Little Chi going to do business in the future? Seeing this scene, Chen Asen finally could not hold it in any longer. He knew that Ningqi did not have much money left. The money he earned from selling the swords was used to buy raw materials to maintain his business, and the rest was distributed to the child beggars or the villagers who were in trouble. If this group of people took the swords away, Ningqi's capital chain would be broken, and he would not even have the money to buy raw materials. You want to meddle in other people's business? This silk shop is yours, right? The three of us will tear it down today. The other party coldly swept a glance at Chen Asen. Chen Asen was stunned for a moment, and his face turned ashen. He didn't expect these people to be even more unreasonable than Bandit. I will take responsibility for my own actions. If you want to vent your anger, come at me. Don't drag others into it. The male child beggar suddenly stood out. His eyes were mature, far surpassing the ordinary people of his age. This child beggar still has some sense of comradeship. He dares to stand out. Boss Ning did not speak up for them in vain. The people of Greenstone Town and the passers-by saw this scene, and they all secretly thought, "Ha ha! Since you want to die, then don't blame me, Mad Cloud Hand, for being merciless." Kwang Yun Shou let out a long laugh and leaped up. He crossed a distance of 2 feet and slapped towards the male beggar. From his swift movements, it could be seen that this Kwang Yun Shou's skill was quite high. Even if his palm couldn't break the stone tablet, this little beggar would still die. Ningqi indifferently looked at this scene. The little beggar's eyes were stubborn. He didn't lower his head, and just stared at Mad Cloud Hand. Just when Mad Cloud Hand's palm was about to fall on the little beggar's head, a flash of lightning flashed, and Mad Cloud Hand took a few steps back. He suddenly looked at the strong man who suddenly saved the little beggar, and angrily said, "Who are you? Why do you want to meddle in my business?" When everyone saw the strong man appear, they immediately became excited. If there were bad people, there would also be good people. The person who saved the little beggar was naturally a good person. Ning Qi faintly glanced at the burly man. He recognized him. Many years ago, this burly man had come to the store to buy a sword. He had thrown down 30 silver taels and left. Now, nearly 20 years had passed. This burly man had changed from being in his 20s to a middle-aged man. However, he had maintained his appearance well. Not bad, and it seemed that there was not much difference between his age and Ning Qi's. What bullshit, Mad Cloud Hand? Attacking a child beggar? Go to hell. That strong man didn't even say his name, and directly raised his sword. Mad Cloud Hand and the two helpers exchanged a few moves with the strong man, and discovered that the three of them together were not a match for the strong man. Every move was extremely dangerous, and they were almost killed. Their eyes revealed a trace of fear. The strong man's sword suddenly shot out a sword energy. The two helpers of Mad Cloud Hand were stunned, and then their heads suddenly fell to the ground. After Mad Cloud Hand saw this sword energy, he couldn't help but exclaim, "You are Sky Sword Zhang Chaozhong." "Now you know, too late." Zhang Chaozhong sneered, and with another sword energy, Mad Cloud Hand unwillingly knelt on the ground. Then, a bloody mark appeared on his neck, and blood continuously flowed out. With a poochie sound, his head fell to the ground, and blood gushed out like a fountain from his neck. Sky Sword Zhang Chaozhong? There were many merchants in Bluestone Town, and when they heard this name, their expressions became extremely shocked. This was because Zhang Chaozhong's name was extremely famous in the Fire Stream Dynasty. He was one of the 4 great masters of the Fire Stream Dynasty. It was said that these 4 great masters were different from normal swordsmen. They had already grasped the power of immortals, and each of them was an extremely terrifying existence. Even though this was only a rumor, those who knew of Zhang Chaozhong were extremely shocked, and at the same time very excited. They didn't think that one day they would be able to see one of the 4 great masters, Zhang Chaozhong. Qi training level 10, Ning Qi looked at Zhang Chaozhong, and muttered to himself. The first time he saw Zhang Chaozhong, he was just a mortal, and there were no traces of cultivation in his body. Even though Zhang Chaozhong at that time should have had sword techniques, but compared to now, there was a world of difference. "Boss Ning, we haven't met for many years. Back then, it was thanks to your sword that I was able to survive in a vendetta and have the Zhang Chaozhong of today. This time, I passed by this place, and originally wanted to buy another sword, but I didn't think that there would be any Tom, Dick, or Harry causing trouble here. In the future, if something like this happens again, please report my name to me, Zhang Chaozhong." Chapter 25-33. Hearing this, everyone suddenly realized why Zhang Chaozhong would save a beggar. It turned out that he was friends with Ning Qi. I didn't expect Zhang Chaozhong to know Boss Ning, and even buy a sword from him. Boss Ning is going to be rich. In the future, if we say Zhang Chaozhong's name, I'm afraid no one will dare to cause trouble in Bluestone Town. Even a grandmaster like Zhang Chaozhong uses Boss Ning's sword. One can only imagine how sharp Boss Ning's sword is. It's only selling for 20 taels of silver. After today, you might not even be able to buy it with 200 taels of silver, right? Shao Qi, why didn't you say you knew Lord Sky Sword? Chen Asen said to Ning Qi excitedly. Ning Qi didn't speak, but Zhang Chaozhong explained, "When I bought the sword, it wasn't the 4 masters yet. It's not surprising that Boss Ning didn't know." "I see. Thank you for your help today." Ning Qi smiled and cupped his hands. "It's what I should do. These scum of the Jianghu will die sooner or later. Today, they will die in the hands of I, Zhang Chaozhong. Their ancestors are blessed." Zhang Chaozhong smiled. It didn't take long for the constables to arrive. When they saw the decapitated corpses on the ground, their faces fell. The leader of the constables asked around and found out that the 3 men had been killed by Zhang Chaozhong. He immediately bowed respectfully to Zhang Chaozhong. Ordinary people might not know, but he knew that Zhang Chaozhong was not only one of the four masters of the Fire Stream dynasty, but also held an important position in Wang capital. Even constables like them would tumble a few times with a single breath. Naturally, they did not dare to slight him. The constable wanted to take the opportunity to flatter Zhang Chaozhong, but Zhang Chaozhong ignored him. Only when he was talking to Ning Qi would there be a smile on his face. Not long after, he picked up one of the swords scattered on the ground, handed Ning Qi a banknote, and left. Chen Asen's eyes were sharp. When he saw the amount of the silver note, he gasped. 10,000 taels of silver. A whole 10,000 taels of silver. What kind of concept was this? An ordinary person would only need 5 taels of silver at most for a year. This 10,000 taels of silver was enough for an ordinary person to eat and drink for a whole 2,000 years. Chen Asen didn't feel jealous. Instead, he felt happy for Ning Qi. He quickly reminded Ning Qi in a low voice, quickly put away the banknotes. Although Ning Qi had Zhang Chaozhong as his backer, if people knew that Ning Qi was carrying a huge sum of money, it was inevitable that some fellows would take the risk and come looking for trouble. Ning Qi put away the money. At this time, the constable had already walked in front of Ning Qi and said with a smile, "So Boss Ning knows a great character like Celestial Sword. This one has been disrespectful." Constable Lin, it was just a coincidence. I'm not that familiar with Sky Sword. Ning Qi smiled. When Arrestor Lin heard that, he decided that in the following days, he would personally patrol this street and build a relationship with Ning Qi. In the future, he might be able to make friends with Zhang Chaozhong through Ning Qi, which would be extremely useful for his future. Therefore, Constable Lin called for the constables to help clean up the sword shop that was destroyed by the Wild Cloud Hand trio. Seeing this, Ning Qi stood at the side happily. "Boss Ning, thank you." The male beggar brought the female beggar to Ning Qi. "You're welcome." Ning Qi smiled and waved his hand. The male beggar took a deep look at Ning Qi, then turned around and left with the female beggar. A few days passed. Other than the incident with the Wild Cloud Hand a few days ago, Greenstone Town had once again returned to its usual peace. However, in front of Ning Qi's shop, there were always swordsmen and merchants waiting to buy swords. They had more or less received the news that Zhang Chaozhong was here to buy swords, so they all came out of admiration. However, Ning Qi suddenly set a rule that he would only sell one sword in 7 days. This caused these fellows to line up at the door before the sun rose. When the other merchants heard this, they all felt that Ning Qi would not do it. Business at this time, why not sell all the swords? If he only sold one sword in 7 days, how long would he have to sell it? Early in the morning, when Ning Qi opened the door of his shop, the lucky ones who got the quota left happily with their swords. The others could only leave in low spirit. They had tried to persuade Ning Qi to pay 10 times the price for a long sword, but Ning Qi still refused to sell. Only now did they realize that Ning Qi's behavior was strange. For ordinary people, coupled with their relationship with Zhang Chaozhong, seeing that Ning Qi was determined to follow the rule of only selling one sword in 7 days, no one dared to break this rule. When it was close to noon, Ning Qi saw the 2 child beggars passing by. They looked around at the stalls selling steamed buns, and seemed to be swallowing their saliva. This kind of scene was often seen with child beggars, so everyone was used to it. However, there were too many child beggars, and no amount of help could save them all. "You two, come here." Ning Qi waved at the 2 of them. Seeing that it was Ning Qi, the male child beggar hesitated for a moment, then brought his sister to Ning Qi. However, he did not enter the shop. It seemed that he was too dirty and did not want to dirty the shop. "What's your name, brother? What's your sister's name?" Ning Qi smiled. "My brother's name is Bei Xiao and I'm Bei Meng." The little girl answered first. "Oh, Bei Xiao, Bei Meng. Good names." Ning Qi smiled. "Do you want to eat steamed buns?" Bei Xiao shook his head, but Bei Meng nodded. At the same time, her stomach made a rumbling sound. In the future, help me sweep the floor and do odd jobs. I will take care of your 3 meals a day, and give you a salary of 1 tael every month. What do you think?" Ningqi smiled. Not only was Bei Xiao not happy, but a hint of vigilance appeared in his eyes. He stared at Ningqi and said, "Boss Ning, there are odd jobs everywhere. Why did you hire us child beggars? We don't have much strength, so we can't do heavy labor. Brother, Boss Ning is a good person. Let's stay here. My legs are tired." Bei Meng tugged at the corner of Bei Xiao's clothes. Bei Xiao was unmoved. He continued to look at Ningqi with bright and clear eyes. "Haven't you heard of my name, Philanthropist Ning? If you don't want to stay, take these taels of silver and buy some food." Ningqi smiled and threw a few pieces of silver to Bei Xiao. The silver flew in an arc and landed in Bei Xiao's palm. Bei Xiao was stunned for a moment. He looked down at the silver in his hand and then recalled the information he had heard about Ningqi. The vigilance in his heart gradually disappeared, and his eyes softened. He took 2 steps forward and returned the silver to Ningqi. Then, he said, "My sister and I are willing to stay and do odd jobs. But my sister can't do too much work, so I'll take care of her share." Hee, earning your own living? Okay. Chapter 25-34. Bei Xiao, are you massaging your master's back again? Chen Asen walked into the shop with a smile. He couldn't help but laugh when he saw Bei Xiao and Bei Meng massaging Ningqi's back together. Bei Xiao didn't seem very willing, but Bei Meng was very enthusiastic. Ningqi would give her a few sweet candies every time he finished massaging Ningqi's back. It had been almost half a year since the two of them became Ningqi's handymen in his shop. Both Bei Xiao and Bei Meng had become very familiar with Ningqi. Although Bei Xiao looked reluctant, he was actually much more focused than Bei Meng. Bei Meng, on the other hand, would start to daydream as she continued to knock. The taste of candies. "Brother Chen, you're here." Ningqi smiled and waved his hand. A few candies fell into Bei Xiao and Bei Meng's hands. Bei Xiao saw this and gave all the candies to Bei Meng. The little girl kissed Ningqi happily and couldn't wait to throw the candies into her mouth. "Say, if I knew you liked kids so much, I would have married a wife for you. Your kid should be around this age now," Chen Asen said with a smile. "Brother Chen, I heard that Xiao Huan wrote home?" Ningqi inadvertently changed the topic. Chen Asen fell for it. He immediately took out a letter from his sleeve and handed it to Ningqi. "Quick, help Brother Chen see what this kid wrote." Ningqi opened the letter with a smile. The letter was sent by Chen Huan. She asked about Chen Asen and Miss Chen's health. She also asked about Ningqi. Then she said that she was living a good life and would come back to Bluestone Town in 3 or 5 years. Brat, coming back in 3 to 5 years? I don't know how long my old bones can last. Chen Asen was furious. "Brother Chen, your body is still strong. 3 to 5 years is nothing." Ningqi smiled and returned the letter to Chen Asen. Chen Asen scolded and walked back to his silk shop with a smile. "Master, is Xiao Huan Uncle Chen's son?" Bei Xiao was curious. "Yes. You can call him Brother Chen when you see him in the future." Ningqi smiled. "Oh." Bei Xiao nodded. Spring passed and autumn came. Year after year passed. When Bei Xiao arrived, he was 9 years old. His height only reached Ningqi's waist. In the blink of an eye, 6 years had passed. Bei Xiao was now a 15-year-old boy. His height had reached 8 feet, but when he stood in front of Ningqi, he still only reached Ningqi's shoulders. Bei Meng, who was already 12 years old, was about to grow into a great beauty. Last year, a matchmaker had visited Bei Meng and Bei Xiao. In the eyes of the people of Bluestone Town, Bei Xiao was Ningqi's disciple. As long as she could learn some skills, she would never become a beggar again. She would be able to live a prosperous life. As for Bei Meng, they often saw Ningqi shopping with Bei Meng, and they knew that Ningqi treated Bei Meng like his own daughter. Many people wanted to take this opportunity to marry Ningqi. After all, Ningqi was considered a capable person in Bluestone Town. Over the years, there was an endless stream of people asking for swords. Furthermore, he was related to Zhang Chaozhong, one of the top 4 experts. However, Ningqi rejected all of them. Bei Xiao and Bei Meng had their own paths. Even Ningqi didn't want to interfere. Ningqi's face showed signs of aging. Over the past 6 years, his hair had started to turn white. He used to sell one sword every 7 days, but now he sold one sword every 15 days. Master, let me massage your back. Bei Xiao carried a large iron ingot into the shop. After putting it down, she walked behind Ningqi and massaged his shoulders. Then, she began to massage his back. She looked as focused as before. You're already so big. I won't give you candy. Ningqi smiled without turning his head. Master, you know that I don't eat candy. Bei Xiao said calmly. Bei Xiao, are you massaging your master's back again? 6 years had passed, and Chen Asen had aged a lot. Every time he saw Bei Xiao massaging Ningqi's back, he would always say this. In the end, even Bei Meng could tell that Chen Asen was envious of Ningqi. Uncle Chen, do you want me to massage your back as well? Bei Meng skipped into the shop like a little deer. Sure. Chen Asen immediately moved a stool and sat beside Ningqi. The two of them enjoyed Bei Xiao and Bei Meng's service and chatted. After chatting for a long time, Chen Asen suddenly sighed. Little Huan said in his letter that he would be back in 3 to 5 years. It's been 6 years. Is he? Ningqi smiled and interrupted Chen Asen. Big brother Chen, I told you that little Huan is blessed by the heavens. He'll be fine. Maybe he was delayed by something. He'll come back. He'll come back? That's good. Chen Asen smiled and nodded. He heaved a sigh of relief. After a while, he got ready to leave and called Ningqi and the others to his house for dinner. Bei Meng let out a cry of joy when she heard that. Ningqi never cooked, and the two of them had always been eating outside. They were already sick of it and looked forward to visiting Chen Asen's house to taste the Chen family's cooking. Even Bei Xiao's eyes revealed a hint of a smile as she subconsciously swallowed a mouthful of saliva. Late at night, Bei Xiao and Bei Meng had already fallen asleep. Ningqi was practicing his sword in the yard. His body was no longer as strong as it used to be. After practicing for a while, he started to pant. Just when Ningqi was about to put away his sword and go to sleep, a black figure descended from the sky and landed in front of Ningqi. Then, 2 other black figures appeared in front of Ningqi. They were shocked when they saw Ningqi, but they soon realized that Ningqi was just an ordinary person, so they didn't pay much attention to him. Let's get rid of Zhang Chaozhong and this guy. We can't let anyone know about what happened today. We don't want Zhang Chaozhong's master to find us, one of them said in a low voice. The other person nodded. They didn't hide anything from Ningqi. It didn't seem wrong for them to say that they wanted to kill Ningqi in front of him. Cough, Zhang Chaozhong spat out a mouthful of blood and struggled to stand up. The other two seemed to be afraid that Zhang Chaozhong had other tricks up his sleeves, so they didn't step forward immediately. Boss Ning. Zhang Chaozhong looked at Ningqi in shock. He then smiled bitterly and said, I'm sorry. Boss Ning was involved in today's matter. If there's an underworld, Chaozhong will apologize to Boss Ning when we get there. Although Zhang Chaozhong was over 50 years old, he looked more than 10 years younger than Ningqi. Zhang Chaozhong knows this person? Could he have some ulterior motive for coming here? Did you see it clearly? Does this guy really not have any cultivation? No. Oh right, this is the sword shop in Bluestone Town. Boss Ning is a blacksmith. Zhang Chaozhong bought a sword here before, so he knows him. I see. Then it's okay. Zhang Chaozhong is seriously injured now. You and I will kill him first. Ningqi and Zhang Chaozhong heard every word of the conversation between the two. It could be seen that they already thought that they were in a winning situation. Boss Ning, you run first. I can still hold them for about 10 minutes. Run as far as you can. Zhang Chaozhong looked at the two of them and said without turning his head. Ning Qi discovered that there were 2 very long and deep wounds on his back. His flesh had even been flipped over. However, as soon as he finished speaking, Zhang Chaozhong fell on his back with a bang. The 2 black shadows looked at each other and finally looked at Ning Qi. I know swordsmanship. You'd better leave. Ning Qi raised the sword in his hand and said lightly. You kill Zhang Chaozhong, I'll kill him. Go! The 2 of them each had a target and rushed forward like ghosts. Ning Qi gently stabbed twice, and the movements of the 2 figures stopped abruptly. They covered their throats in disbelief and looked at Ning Qi. How could a mortal's sword be so fast? Puff! The 2 fell to the ground and died unwillingly. Chapter 25-35. Where am I? Zhang Chaozhong felt a little dazzling in front of him. The sunlight shone through the window and fell on his eyelids. Zhang Chaozhong slowly opened his eyes and found himself in an unfamiliar bedroom. He was not lying down, but lying on his stomach. The wound on his back was still throbbing, which immediately reminded him of what happened last night. I'm not dead? Did they catch me alive? Zhang Chaozhong's expression gradually became a little strange. He forced himself to sit up, intending to look through the window, only to find a familiar figure in the courtyard outside practicing swordsmanship, if this could be considered swordsmanship. Why isn't Boss Ning dead? What's going on? Zhang Chaozhong fell into deep thought. He could not understand how he could survive last night's situation. Even Ning Qi was alive and well. Where did the 2 guys who chased after him go? Creak. The door opened and Bei Xiao walked in with a basin of water. She placed it on the bedside and said to Zhang Chaozhong, Master said that the wound on your back needs to be cleaned, but he said that you can do it yourself. Come out and have some porridge after you're done. Bei Xiao turned around and left after she finished speaking. She felt strange when she walked out of the door. Why did that guy look so familiar? She seemed to have seen him somewhere before. Zhang Chaozhong also had the same feeling. He naturally did not know that Bei Xiao was the child beggar he had saved from Wild Cloud Hand. The Bei Xiao at that time was very different from the current Bei Xiao. However, from Bei Xiao's words, Zhang Chaozhong was able to obtain an accurate piece of information. He had indeed survived, even though he had no memory of what had happened last night. In order to know this, he quickly cleaned his wounds, put on the green robe that Bei Xiao had brought for him, and walked into the courtyard. Bei Meng rested her chin on her hand and watched Ning Qi practice his swordsmanship in boredom. When she saw Zhang Chaozhong, a trace of curiosity flashed in her eyes. You're awake. Ning Qi put away his sword and wiped the sweat off his forehead. He smiled. Yes. Zhang Chaozhong wanted to say something but stopped. He glanced at Bei Xiao and Bei Meng. You 2 go out and play. Ning Qi waved his hand. Bei Xiao and Bei Meng looked at each other. They knew that their master had something to say to this fellow, so they reluctantly left the courtyard and went into the store. After the 2 left, Zhang Chaozhong cupped his hands towards Ning Qi and said, Boss Ning, I don't know what happened last night. Why am I still alive, and even you, I'm not sure either. After you fainted, they left. Ning Qi said. Zhang Chaozhong stared blankly at Ning Qi. Speaking of which, it was really dangerous, Ning Qi sighed. I'm really sorry. I almost put Boss Ning in danger. Those guys won't let me off so easily. I'll leave now. Zhang Chaozhong blushed and quickly cupped his hands. Before he left, he solemnly saluted Ning Qi. Thank you, Boss Ning. If it had been anyone else, they probably wouldn't have dared to keep him here after seeing such a scene. But Ning Qi had stayed, so he naturally had to thank Ning Qi. As for how he had survived, he could only look for clues in the future. In the shop. Master, who is that guy? Bei Meng asked curiously. Bei Zhao's ears perked up. Have you forgotten about Zhang Chaozhong who saved you? Ning Qi smiled. It's him? Bei Zhao's eyes flashed with a trace of surprise, then regret. Zhang Chaozhong was also his savior. To be precise, Zhang Chaozhong had directly saved them. Although he did it because of Ning Qi, he did save them after all. This time, he didn't recognize Zhang Chaozhong and thank him. Bei Xiao was a little regretful. You were still young at that time. It's normal that you don't remember. Ning Qi smiled. After a pause, he said, the iron materials should be here soon. Bei Xiao, help me take a look. The quality of the iron materials last time was a little low. If it's the same as last time, tell Lao San not to send it over. Okay. Bei Xiao nodded and turned to leave the shop. Bei Meng saw this and said to Ning Qi, I'll follow him. Then, she quickly followed Bei Xiao and disappeared into the street corner. Perhaps Lao San's iron materials this time were the same as last time. He didn't deliver them until evening, and Bei Xiao and Bei Meng didn't return either. Ning Qi sat in the shop until 7 or 8 o'clock. When there were no more people on the street, he slowly closed the shop. In the next few days, there was no news from Bei Xiao and Bei Meng. Xiao Qi, the arrestor, has already sent people to look for them. As long as Bei Xiao and Bei Meng are still nearby, they will definitely be found. Don't worry. Chen Asen walked into the silk shop and said to Ning Qi, Brother Chen, they are already so old. What danger could they be in? If they can't come back, they must have been delayed by something. Ning Qi smiled. Chen Asen felt a little strange. Ning Qi didn't seem to be worried about the two children at all. It was just like how Ning Qi always told him that Chen Huan would come back. He was always so confident. After Bei Xiao and Bei Meng went missing, Ning Qi's life went on as usual. The only difference was that there were fewer and fewer matchmakers. Because of Bei Xiao and Bei Meng's disappearance, many people brought their children to Ning Qi's shop to learn the art of swordsmithing. However, Ning Qi used the ancestral art as an excuse to reject them. In the blink of an eye, another 20 years had passed. 20 years ago, Chen Asen was almost 70 years old. After these 20 years, he was already 89 years old, and was almost the oldest person in Bluestone Town. His wife, Madame Chen, was originally younger than Chen Asen by more than 10 years, but she passed away on a cold winter night last year. Ning Qi helped to organize the funeral. Since Chen Asen no longer had the energy to organize funerals, the business in the shop was basically managed by the helpers hired by Chen Asen. Chen Asen had nothing to do, so he stood at the entrance of the silk shop with his walking stick and looked at the corner of the street. Most of the shops on this street had changed owners. Some had inherited their father's business, while others had retired and transferred their shops to others. However, everyone knew that Chen Asen was looking at the corner of the street, waiting for his son to come back. In private, many people would talk about how unfilial Chen Asen was. Chapter 2536. Ning Qi's shop was originally famous because of Zhang Chaozhong. Think about it. How cool would it be for people to hear that Zhang Chaozhong was one of the 4 experts to use a sword from this place? After Zhang Chaozhong's disappearance for many years and news of his death spread, and with Ning Qi only selling a sword every 6 months, fewer and fewer people came to buy swords. However, this street had become more and more lively in recent years. The people of Bluestone Town did not know the reason, but it was because of the increase in population that they had benefited greatly, and their business was at least 3 to 5 times better than in previous years. It has been almost 60 years since the first divine mausoleum appeared. I wonder if the news this time is accurate that the second divine mausoleum will appear in this tiny fiery stream dynasty's Liang city? I heard that this was calculated by the Yishuan sect's Grand Elder, who came to the homeworld this time. The prodigies of the various sects are now stationed in Liang City, and our sect is only a third-rate sect in the Juku state and is not qualified to wait in Liang City, so we will wait here in Bluestone Town. It is only 300 miles from here to Liang City. A group of immortals passed through the main street of Bluestone Town. The one in the lead had the aura of a heavenly immortal, and behind him were a dozen earthly immortal prodigies. Their eyes would more or less fall on the surrounding shops, but these mortal shops were not very attractive to them. After a brief glance, they would move their eyes away. This made those shop owners who were eagerly waiting to do business a little disappointed. It has been so many years, but the second divine mausoleum has not appeared yet. Ning Qi muttered to himself as he wiped a longsword in a sword shop, withdrawing his gaze from the two heavenly immortals. In the last 2 years, he had seen many immortals appear in Bluestone Town. Originally, there were perhaps only 10,000 residents, but now there were at least 30,000, and the extra 20,000 were all immortals. Of course, these immortals had a tacit understanding not to reveal their identities and affect the lives of the mortals in Bluestone Town. Perhaps apart from Ning Qi, the rest of the mortals basically did not know that the immortals they often talked about were now living near them and had become their neighbors. If the divine mausoleum appears in this realm, would it affect Bluestone Town? Ning Qi frowned slightly. The last time the tomb of the god of sin appeared, the whole mountain was shrouded in mist. This time, Ning Qi heard some slightly crucial information from the occasional conversations of these immortals. The Yixuan sect had already sent a grand luo to the homeworld, and had even calculated that the second celestial mausoleum would appear in Liang City. It would not be a problem if that grand luo was right, but if it was slightly off, Bluestone Town, which was 300 miles away from Liang City, might be in danger. Little Chen Asen walked shakily to the entrance of Ning Qi's shop with the help of a walking stick. Compared to a few decades ago, Chen Asen's body was already very weak. After all, mortals who were almost 90 years old had almost reached their limit. Ning Qi quickly stepped forward to support him. "Big brother Chen, be careful." Chen Asen's eyes were slightly cloudy. He glanced at the street and said, "Little Qi, so many people have come to our Bluestone Town all these years. Little Huan should be back soon, right?" "Yes, Xiao Huan should be back soon." Ning Qi nodded. But Chen Asen was a little confused. "I feel like I'm going to leave soon. I'm afraid I won't be able to see Xiao Huan for the last time." "Big brother Chen, don't say such inauspicious words. With your body, it won't be a problem for you to live another 10 or 20 years if you're careful. Xiao Huan will definitely be back by then." Ning Qi comforted him. "Boss, how much are the swords in your shop?" A figure walked into the shop. "Little Qi, I won't disturb your business anymore. Take good care of the customers." Chen Asen saw that and walked back to the silk shop on the opposite side, trembling. "I sell swords here once every 6 months. The time is not up yet, so these swords are not for sale." Ning Qi looked at the person and smiled. The earth immortal aura on the other party was very strong. Chen Asen and the others could not sense it, but Ning Qi could. "Not for sale? Interesting. Don't you want to earn money? I'll give you 10,000 taels. Are you selling?" The other party was taken aback at first, but then smiled. "Not for sale." Ning Qi smiled. "Not even 10,000 taels?" The earth immortal seemed to be a little surprised. He looked at Ning Qi suspiciously for a while, and made sure that Ning Qi was not an immortal. He then asked curiously, "Old man, 10,000 taels of silver is enough for you to spend until you die of old age. With this money, you won't have to worry about your livelihood in the future. Why not sell it?" "Sir, money is good enough. Even if you give me 10,000 taels of silver, I won't be able to use it to seek immortality. I'll still die of old age and sickness." Ning Qi smiled. "That's true. But 10,000 taels of silver can lead a rich life, marry a few beautiful wives and eat all kinds of delicacies. Isn't that good?" The other party was startled and said, "Sir, are you living such a life now?" Ningqi asked with a smile. No. But you won't understand the life I'm living." The Earth Immortal smiled and stopped trying to persuade Ningqi. After all, he had no interest in the swords in the shop. He was just strolling around and asked casually, "Sir, you're so young. Of course I don't understand." Ningqi smiled and continued to clean the long sword. Young, the Earth Immortal had a strange look on his face. He knew that if he told the old man his age, he would be scared to death. "May I know your name?" "My name is Xingqiu. I'll be staying here for the time being. I'll come and chat with you when I have time. Is that okay?" Xingqiu smiled. "My name is Ningqi. Everyone here calls me Boss Ning. You can call me Boss Ning too." Ningqi smiled. In the following days, Xingqiu would come to Ningqi's shop to chat with him. But he had never talked to Ningqi about immortals. The topics they talked about were the daily life of Greenstone Town and the stories of the famous people. More and more immortals came to Bluestone Town, so much so that even the townspeople, who were slow to notice, began to notice that something was amiss. However, they couldn't figure out why, and could only wonder if the feng shui of Bluestone Town had changed to attract so many people to settle here. Just like that, another 3 years passed. On this day, Chen Asen stood at the door of the shop with his walking stick as usual. He looked at the corner of the street. The helpers he hired wanted him to sit, but Chen Asen refused. "I can see further if I stand higher. If I sit, I won't be able to see Xiao Huan." Chapter 25-37. Chen Asen's cloudy eyes suddenly lit up, and his body trembled with excitement. At this time, Ningqi also walked out of the sword shop and looked at the 3 figures. When Chen Huan left, he was only 18 or 19 years old. He had been gone for more than 30 years. Now, he was almost 50 years old, but he looked like he was in his 40s. He excitedly led the woman to Chen Asen, and the servants in the silk shop thought they had arrived. When the servants in the silk shop thought that the customers had arrived, Chen Huan knelt down with a thud. The woman also knelt in front of Chen Asen with the child in her arms. "Hey, what's going on?" The owners of the nearby shops all leaned out curiously to see this scene. A few of them were born and raised in Bluestone Town. When they saw Chen Huan, there was a trace of surprise and disbelief in their eyes. "Is that Chen Huan? This brat is finally willing to come back. Is that his wife beside him? He married a wife and had children outside, but he didn't even come back to see his mother when she passed away. What an unfilial son. Shut up. Don't talk nonsense about family affairs." "Father, I'm unfilial." Chen Huan kowtowed several times, his eyes red. Those who didn't know Chen Huan's background knew that this guy was Chen Huan, the only son that Chen Asen had been longing for all day. "It's good that you're back, it's good that you're back." Chen Asen reached out with a trembling hand and touched Chen Huan's head. "Don't kneel, get up." He had said to Ningqi that if Chen Huan came back, he would break one of his legs first. He had said this 1,000 times, but when Chen Huan really came back today, Chen Asen didn't feel angry at all. Instead, his face was full of relief. Chen Huan looked at Chen Asen's old face and finally couldn't hold back her tears. The woman's eyes were also red, but the child in her arms didn't know why his father was crying and looked puzzled. "Father, this is my wife. Xiaoqing, greet father." Chen Huan wiped away her tears and said to the woman, "Father." The woman hurriedly bowed. "Your wife? Good, good." Chen Asen might be old and didn't realize it at first. After Chen Huan introduced him, he suddenly understood and couldn't hide his joy. "Dad, is this grandfather?" the baby said in a childish voice. "Yes, call him Grandpa." Chen Huan nodded. "Hello, Grandpa. My name is Chen Shi," the little doll said. "Chen Shi? Good, good." Chen Asen was very excited. He felt that he had not waited in vain all these years. Not only did Chen Huan come back safe and sound, but she also brought him a daughter-in-law and a little grandson. Chen Asen was much more energetic than usual. He even walked with vigor. He didn't even need his walking stick. He held Chen Huan's hand. He walked into the shop. Old Chen is really lucky this time. All of a sudden, all of his sons and grandsons are here. I thought there was no one to inherit his silk shop. The nearby bosses couldn't help but sigh. That night, Chen Asen sent someone to invite Ning Qi over. At the table, Chen Shi was looking curiously at Ning Qi. His eyes reminded Chen Huan of the past. Chen Huan's wife, Xiaoqing, was also at the table this time. According to Chen Asen's temper in the past, when there were guests, women would never sit at the table. Uncle Qi, thank you for taking care of my father all these years. I heard from my father that when my mother passed away, you were the one who helped arrange her funeral. Xiao Huan was unfilial. Chen Huan looked at Ning Qi with tears in his eyes. His current aura was much stronger than that of his uncle, Yan Jingfeng. He had already reached the 10th stage of qi refinement, the same level as Zhang Chaozhong. In the Fire Stream dynasty, he would probably be ranked among the top 4 experts. In a short span of 30 years, he had cultivated to this level. During this period, Chen Huan must have had some fortuitous encounters. It's good that you're back. Ning Qi smiled faintly and raised his cup to toast Chen Huan. Grandpa Ning, I heard from Daddy that you have a lot of swords. Can I go take a look tomorrow morning? After 3 rounds of wine, Chen Shi asked in a childish voice. Sure. Your father used to like to come to my place too. Ning Qi nodded with a smile. Only then did Chen Shi look at Chen Huan. Seeing Chen Huan nod, he smiled happily. Chen Asen looked at Chen Shi kindly and drank with Ning Qi from time to time. Seeing that he was getting on in years, Chen Huan tried to persuade him to drink less but was rebutted by Chen Asen. Your father is happy today. What's wrong with drinking a few cups? Chen Asen said with wide eyes. Chen Huan felt helpless. Chen Asen drank a lot, but his eyes were still clear, much clearer than they had been in the past few years. At the table, he talked about the changes that had taken place in Bluestone Town during Chen Huan's absence. He also talked about Bei Xiao and Bei Meng, who had helped Ning Qi in his shop. Xiaoqi, don't worry. Those 2 kids will definitely come back. Chen Asen said to Ning Qi. Ning Qi smiled. Big brother Chen is right. They will definitely come back. Xiao Huan, since you're back and have a wife and children, why don't you take over this silk shop? Chen Asen suddenly looked at Chen Huan and said with a hint of anticipation in his eyes. Hearing that, Chen Huan nodded heavily. Father, I won't be leaving this time. I'll take care of the silk shop from now on. You can enjoy your life. All right. Chen Asen smiled and said, I'll enjoy my life from now on, haha. This meal went on for a very, very long time. Chen Asen could not bear to end it until it was too late. Chen Shi had already fallen asleep in Xiaoqing's arms. Seeing this, Chen Asen finally ended the meal. When Ning Qi left, Chen Asen insisted on seeing him to the door and did not let Chen Huan follow. Xiaoqi, you've been calling me Big Brother Chen for so many years. I've long regarded you as a younger brother. In the future, you have to take care of Chen Huan, all right? Chen Asen said softly as he held Ning Qi's hand. Big brother Chen Huan is already an adult. Nothing will happen to her. Don't worry. Ning Qi patted Chen Asen's hand. Then I can rest assured. Chen Asen smiled and nodded. The next day, a white couplet was hung at the entrance of the silk shop. Chen Asen passed away the night before. He passed away peacefully with a smile on his face. The people of Bluestone Town said that it was a joyous funeral. After all, Chen Asen had reunited with his son, daughter-in-law, and grandson, all of whom had lived to the age of 90. His life was complete. Chen Huan did not cry during the funeral for Chen Asen. Chen Shi was still standing with his mother in a daze, looking at the relatives and friends who had come to mourn. Ning Qi slowly walked into the mourning hall. The other people in the mourning hall all knew Ning Qi, so they greeted him with a slightly respectful expression. After all, Ning Qi was a celebrity in Bluestone Town. He was old friends with Zhang Chaozhong, one of the former top 4 experts. For ordinary people, Ning Qi's identity was naturally related to them. There were some differences. Chapter 25:38. Let me light a stick of incense. Although Big Brother Chen is gone, don't be too sad. His life was perfect. Ning Qi patted Chen Huan's hand lightly, then picked up a stick of incense and bowed to it. He looked at Chen Aisen's portrait with a complicated expression. He had already seen that Chen Aisen's qi was exhausted yesterday, but Chen Aisen relied on the last breath in his heart and held on until last night before leaving. Ning Qi couldn't help but ask himself, if it was in the past, would he have used his own means to extend Chen Aisen's life? The answer was no. In the past, Ning Qi wouldn't have had any interaction with mortals like Chen Aisen. Even if he had, he wouldn't have extended a mortal's life at will. There were tens of millions of mortals in the world. Could he have saved them? Birth, old age, sickness, and death were processes that mortals had to go through in their lives. To escape this process, only immortals had a sliver of a chance. But even immortals would run out of lifespan. Currently, Ning Qi was immortal. Perhaps mortals had to experience their own birth, aging, sickness, and death, as well as the birth, age, and death of others. Ning Qi didn't feel the slightest bit sad about Chen Aisen's death. Perhaps he already knew that Chen Aisen would die one day? It was an inexplicable feeling. As a mortal, Big Brother Chen fought against the heavens for half a day. Under equal conditions, how is he different from immortals? Immortals also use their own methods to fight against the heavens. This half a day's time isn't as cheap as the 10,000 years that immortals have. Because this half a day made Big Brother Chen's life complete. Compared to the unwillingness of most immortals before they die, it's much higher. Ning Qi's eyes flashed with a hint of understanding. A faint sword intent that understood life and death enveloped Ning Qi. Chen Huan didn't notice it, and neither did the others in the morning hall. Among the 3,000 great Daos, was there a mortal Dao? Never. Since the heavens wouldn't give it to him, he would step out himself. At this moment, Ning Qi was an immortal and a demon, but he knew that he was still a mortal with 7 emotions and 6 desires. The emotionless sword didn't destroy emotions, but Dao. However, the word Dao was too disgraceful. It couldn't be said rashly. You finally know why the emotionless sword technique can annihilate immortals with the body of a mortal. It's because it can even annihilate Dao. A faint voice sounded in Ning Qi's mind. It was the silver dragon. But before the heavenly Dao, there were already mortals. Mortals were the first existences to appear in this world. Whether it was immortals or devils, they all had an irreversible relationship with the heavenly Dao. Only mortals had nothing to do with the heavenly Dao, forming 2 completely different worlds. The opposites of light, one strong and one weak, one black and one white, one yin and one yang. It is nothing more than this. I already know what mortals are, but what is the heavenly Dao? The heavenly Dao is like a dragon, controlling the rise and fall of the world. Slaughter it. Slaying dragons, seems like I'm pretty good at it. 7 days later, Chen Aisen was buried. Chen Huan gradually returned to her days as the silk shop's shopkeeper. Chen Shi also often came to Ning Qi's shop to observe the swords that Ning Qi had forged using mortal means. These swords did not have any spiritual energy and looked very ordinary. Uncle Qi, it's time to eat. When it was time to eat, Chen Huan walked into the shop, picked up Chen Shi, and called out to Ning Qi. After Chen Aisen left, Chen Huan knew that Ning Qi never cooked, so he let Ning Qi eat with him. He bluntly said that Ning Qi had no children and that he would be in charge of taking care of his old age and taking care of his funeral in the future. After 7 or 8 years, people began to privately discuss the people who had come to Bluestone Town over the years. This was because the appearance of these people had not changed in these 7 or 8 years. Even Chen Huan, who was at the 10th level of qi refinement, was slowly aging. However, these discussions were kept to themselves. Even if they had suspicions, they did not dare to voice it out in public. When people said that there were many more people in Liang City who did not age, the people of Bluestone Town felt that something big was about to happen. One day, when Ning Qi, Chen Huan, Shaoqing, and Chen Shi were eating, a figure suddenly descended from the sky. It was like Zhang Chaozhong, but this figure was not him. It was Chen Huan's uncle, Yan Zhengfeng. Yan Zhengfeng was at least 70 years old, but now he seemed to be about the same age as Chen Huan. His arrival made Shaoqing and Chen Shi a little frightened because Yan Zhengfeng was covered in blood. Ning Qi frowned and put down his chopsticks. Chen Huan quickly helped Yan Zhengfeng up and asked with a serious expression, "Uncle, what happened?" "Liang City." Yan Zhengfeng pointed in the direction of Liang City and then fainted. His current cultivation level was only at the 7th level of qi refinement, far inferior to Chen Huan. "Darling, who is he?" Shaoqing had probably never seen Yan Zhengfeng before, but when she heard Chen Huan address him as uncle, she had some guesses. "It's my little uncle. All of my martial arts came from him," Chen Huan explained as he carried Yan Zhengfeng, but there was a hint of worry in his eyes that could not be erased. The next day, Yan Zhengfeng's injuries had recovered with Chen Huan's help. He was currently having a serious conversation with Chen Huan. "Little Huan, I know that you've had some fortuitous encounters over the years, and your cultivation is now even stronger than mine. But the enemies your uncle has provoked this time are simply too terrifying. Listen to me." Take your wife and Chen Shi with you and leave this place. They will definitely chase you all the way here. As for me, my injuries are too serious. I can't leave with you. Don't say anything more. Chen Huan was silent for a moment. "I promised my father that I would guard this silk shop." "Pedantic. Is your life more important or the shop?" "It's all my fault. I was delirious at the time. Otherwise, I wouldn't have come here no matter what." Yan Zhengfeng's expression was a little ugly. He had indeed been delirious yesterday, which was why he had subconsciously run to the silk shop. Now he was filled with regret. "Uncle, don't worry. Perhaps your enemies haven't found you yet," Chen Huan said. At the same time, a figure appeared on the street. It was an old man with a gloomy expression. He slowly walked to the front of the silk shop. The corners of his mouth curled up as he softly said, "Yan Zhengfeng, after offending my clan's young master, where do you think you can escape to?" Although the old man's voice was very soft, everyone on the street could hear it clearly. Many bewildered gazes instantly fell on the old man. Yan Zhengfeng? As far as they knew, Chen Huan's name was not Yan Zhengfeng. Could this old man have come to the wrong place? Or was Chen Huan's enemy outside? Chapter 2539. You're on good terms with the owner of the silk shop? But he seems to have offended someone he shouldn't have. Xing Qiu stood beside Ning Qi and said with a faint smile. The old man was a body integration cultivator. Compared to him, he was like an ant. However, compared to the 2 qi condensation cultivators inside, he was indeed someone he couldn't afford to offend. Ning Qi looked at the old man indifferently and glanced at Xing Qiu without saying a word. Inside the silk shop, Yan Zhengfeng's expression was extremely ugly. He said to Chen Huan, "They've caught up. I'm going out for a bit. Don't follow me." With that, Yan Zhengfeng went straight out the door. When he walked out of the silk shop, a smile appeared on the old man's face. Come with me. The old man smiled. All right. Yen Jingfeng nodded. A trace of despair flashed in the depths of his eyes. He knew that he was going to die. At that moment, he happened to see two pairs of eyes looking at him. One of them was rather familiar. Yen Jingfeng took a glance and recognized Ning Qi. Back then, Ning Qi had looked much younger than him. Now, he was an old man nearing his 70s. Yen Jingfeng smiled at Ning Qi without saying a word. You know him? Why don't you give me a sword? I can help you. Xing Qiu glanced at Ning Qi and chuckled. His voice was only audible to Ning Qi. Ning Qi calmly shook his head. Just as Yen Jingfeng was about to leave with the old man, the door to the silk shop suddenly opened. Chen Huan strode out with a majestic gait, a sword in his hand. Xiao Qing held Chen Shi in her arms and looked on worriedly from behind. Seeing this, Ning Qi could not help but frown. Is that guy Chen Huan's relative? Chen Huan has really become a swordsman these years. When we were all very young, I already felt that Chen Huan had martial arts. Many Bluestone Town residents who had grown up with Chen Huan came to a sudden realization. What grudge do you have with my uncle? Must you fight to the death? Chen Huan asked in a deep voice. The old man stopped in his tracks. Yen Jingfeng turned around abruptly and berated Chen Huan. What does this have to do with you? Go back. Since you're out, don't leave. Follow me back to see Master. The old man chuckled and looked at Chen Huan. I wanted to spare your life, but you came out to die. Don't blame me. It's hard to say who will live and who will die. Chen Huan said solemnly. Is that so? The old man seemed to have heard the funniest joke in the world, and the surrounding immortals couldn't help but chuckle. Chen Huan was only at the qi condensation stage, so she had no chance of winning against a body integration cultivator. It was just like how this body integration cultivator faced off against them. It was enormous. In the next moment, the old man suddenly released his aura and swept towards Chen Huan like a mountain. In that instant, Chen Huan knew that the old man was indeed an existence that he could not afford to provoke. However, he did not retreat because his wife and child were behind him. Take the child away. Chen Huan growled and charged forward with her sword. When the old man's aura landed on Chen Huan felt as if he had been hit in the chest by a giant hammer. He stumbled back 7 or 8 steps and spat out a mouthful of blood. He looked extremely dispirited. If not for the fact that he was holding his sword against the limestone floor, Chen Huan would not have been able to stand. Daddy! Chen Shi cried out in alarm. Xiao Qing hurried forward to support Chen Huan, the worry on her face deepening. Hurry up and leave. Chen Huan said in a low voice. If we leave together. Xiao Qing shook her head, her eyes filled with determination. Senior, this is my fault alone. Don't drag others into it. Let's go. Yen Jingfeng looked at the old man with a pleading look in his eyes. The old man laughed sinisterly. Now that you're anxious, why did you run back then? When Yen Jingfeng heard that, he knew that the old man would not let Chen Huan go. The despair in his eyes intensified. Just then, Ning Qi coughed and walked out of the sword shop to Chen Huan's side. He smiled at the old man and cupped his hands. Old sir, Xiao Huan has nothing to do with this. Please let him go. Xing Qiu was taken aback and looked at Ning Qi with a strange expression. This old man clearly knew that the other party was not an ordinary person. Why did he stick his nose into this matter? Was he tired of living? Uncle Qi, this has nothing to do with you. Hurry up and return to the shop. Chen Huan's eyes revealed a trace of anxiety. Ning Qi had watched him grow up. In his heart, Ning Qi's position might not be any lower than Chen Asen's. Naturally, he did not want to see Ning Qi die a horrible death because of him. Fine. The old man sighed softly. Yen Jingfeng, Chen Huan, and the rest perked up, thinking that the old man had been discovered out of kindness. However, the old man smiled and said, Master only wants him. You don't have to bring him back. I'll send you on your way. When the time comes, we'll have a chance to meet again on the road to the netherworld. With that, a flying sword soared into the sky and sped toward Ning Qi and Chen Huan. Ning Qi looked at the flying sword indifferently. His expression did not change at all. Xing Qiu had no intention of helping. After all, Ning Qi was just an ordinary person. Moreover, he was courting death. Why should he help? The old man's flying sword was suddenly struck down by 2 bolts of lightning halfway through its journey. Everyone could see that the flying sword had already been split into 2 and had sunk deep into the ground. It had lost its immortal qi and was reduced to an ordinary sword. The old man spat out a mouthful of blood. His face was filled with shock. Chapter 2540. In Ning Qi's courtyard. Ning Qi was sitting on a chair. Bei Xiao was massaging his back while Bei Meng was massaging his legs. The two of them glanced at Ning Qi from time to time, trying to see if he was angry about their disappearance for the past 20 years. However, Ning Qi's expression was still the same. He was always smiling, giving off the feeling of a spring breeze. The feeling of a spring breeze. The old man's head was now lying in a corner of the courtyard. Yan Jingfeng and Chen Huan were sitting opposite Ning Qi. Yan Jingfeng looked at Ning Qi with a strange expression. He was trying to recall the scene when he first met Ning Qi. He was just an ordinary person. How could he have 2 such powerful disciples? Perhaps Bei Xiao and Bei Meng's way of addressing Ning Qi had caused Yan Jingfeng to misunderstand. They called Ning Qi master, but in reality it was just a simple form of address. Ning Qi had never taught them anything, not even swordsmithing. However, when Bei Xiao wanted to see it, Ning Qi wouldn't refuse. So you two are Bei Xiao and Bei Meng. Before my father left, he said that you two would definitely come back. I didn't expect that you two would save us as soon as you came back, Chen Huan sighed, and then felt a little ashamed. Chen Asen had left and almost killed Ning Qi when he came back. Compared to Bei Xiao and Bei Meng, it was really embarrassing. You are Uncle Chen's son, Chen Huan? Bei Meng asked curiously. Yes. Chen Huan nodded. Uncle Chen is a good person. It's a pity that if we came back earlier, Uncle Chen might have. Bei Meng sighed softly. Life and death are decreed by fate. Ning Qi said calmly. Bei Xiao nodded subconsciously. She suddenly realized that although Ning Qi was just a mortal, he was sometimes even more indifferent than an immortal. Brother-in-law has lived for more than 80 years. It's enough. Speaking of which, today's incident is all because of me, Yan Jingfeng smiled bitterly. Uncle, we are a family. Chen Huan looked at Yan Jingfeng and said seriously. I don't know what has happened in these past few years, but there are so many mysterious experts in Liang City. This time, I only argued with someone for a while, but I ended up attracting such a fatal disaster. The old man who attacked today is merely a servant of my enemy. Perhaps I can't stay in this land for long. Yan Jingfeng sighed. There are also many people in Bluestone Town. Chen Huan nodded. Bei Xiao and Bei Meng looked at each other, and Bei Meng suddenly said to Ning Qi with a smile, Master, we've come back to take care of you. Why don't you pack your things and come with us? We know a place with verdant hills and limpid waters. It's very suitable for you. I've stayed in Bluestone Town for many years. I don't want to leave. Ning Qi smiled and shook his head. If you don't want to leave, then don't leave. With me and Big Brother here, no one can bully you. Bei Meng nodded. May I know who you are? Yan Jingfeng suddenly cupped his hands towards the two of them, a hint of curiosity in his eyes. Bei Xiao glanced at Yan Jingfeng indifferently. Your enemy has a powerful background. You might be able to escape if you leave this place now. After that, no matter how Yan Jingfeng asked, Bei Xiao did not speak. She just focused on massaging Yan Jingfeng's back like before. Seeing this, Yen Jingfeng smiled embarrassedly and did not dare to lose his temper. He cupped his hands towards Ning Qi and left. Chen Huan looked at Ning Qi and then at Bei Xiao and Bei Meng. When he was about to leave, Ning Qi suddenly said, "The night your father left, he asked me to take good care of you. Xiao Huan, if you need anything, come and knock on the door." "Thank you, Uncle Qi." Chen Huan cupped her hands solemnly. Yen Jingfeng didn't leave as Bei Xiao had suggested. Perhaps Chen Huan had persuaded him, or perhaps he wanted to stay in Bluestone Town and think that Bei Xiao and Bei Meng would help him for Ning Qi's sake. He thought that staying here would be safer. Ever since Bei Meng took the old man's head, a few strangers came to Bluestone Town from Liang City. They wandered around the sword shop for a while and then left. Nothing happened for a long time after that, and Yen Jingfeng's enemy did not show up again. It seemed that things had passed just like that. Many people in Bluestone Town were talking about it enthusiastically. They all said that the two beggars that Boss Ning had saved had become immortals. Otherwise, how could they have beheaded someone with a flying sword? Time passed day by day. In the blink of an eye, another 7 or 8 years had passed. In these 7 or 8 years, Bei Xiao and Bei Meng did not look old at all, which made the people of Bluestone Town even more certain of their identities. Many old people in Bluestone Town regretted their decision. If they had known this would happen, they would have married their daughters to Bei Xiao. Now, they did not dare to rashly propose marriage. Ning Qi no longer forged swords. Just like Chen Asen, he would sit in front of the shop and watch the passers-by with a smile. Occasionally, he would visit other shops. As for the sword forging, he handed it over to Bei Xiao. Just like before, he would sell one sword every 6 months. The business of the sword shop became better. Unknowingly, it became better again. Every 6 months there would be hundreds of people coming to the sword shop to buy sword. The people of Bluestone Town said that Bei Xiao was better than her master. In fact, most of the people who bought the sword were above the Qi refinement realm. None of them were ordinary people. After they heard that Bei Xiao and Bei Meng were human immortals, they naturally hoped to buy a sword personally made by a human immortal. "Grandpa Qi." Chen Shi ran into the shop from the silk shop across the street. Chen Huan had been back for about 15 to 16 years. Chen Shi had also turned from a milk boy into a strong and energetic young man. However, Ning Qi could not see any signs of cultivation from him. Chen Huan did not teach Chen Shi how to cultivate. "Xiaoxi, why aren't you helping your father in the shop? What are you doing here?" Ning Qi sat in a rocking chair and chuckled. His face was covered in wrinkles, and he was already in his 80s. "My father can handle everything by himself, so I came to see if Grandpa Qi needs my help with anything," Chen Shi said with a grin. Chen Shi said with a grin. His eyes scanned the interior of the store as though he was looking for something. Very quickly, when he saw Bei Meng come out, his face flushed red. He said in a reserved manner, "Aunt Bei Meng." Bei Meng looked about the same age as Chen Shi, but Chen Shi knew that she was already in her 40s. This was something that Chen Huan had specifically instructed him to do, as she was afraid that Chen Shi would spout nonsense and offend her. "Xiaoxi, why aren't you helping your father in the shop? What are you doing here?" Bei Meng said subconsciously. Chen Shi felt a little helpless. Why did Aunt Bei Meng say the same thing as Grandpa Qi? He could only run back into the silk shop, looking back repeatedly. Although a young man was trying his best to hide his thoughts, who could see them? At this moment, a group of immortals walked past the door. When Bei Meng saw them, she could not help but frown. She muttered to herself, "The world is getting more and more chaotic." Yeah. Ning Qi nodded calmly. Chapter 2541. Fire Stream Dynasty, Liang City. "Master, Eagle Slave is dead. I have investigated and found out that the ones who killed Eagle Slave were 2 human immortals. I don't know how high their cultivation levels are for now. However, the two human immortals seemed to have a good relationship with an old mortal man. It was because of that old man that they killed Eagle Slave. A middle-aged man stood respectfully in front of a young man and explained in a low voice the relationship between Ning Qi, Chen Huan, and Bei Xiao in detail. The young man was expressionless as he sat on the main seat. After listening, he said indifferently, "Investigate the old man's background and see if he's an expert hiding in Bluestone Town." After all, the origin Luo patriarch of the Yixian sect said that there's a 70 to 80% chance that the second tomb of the god of sin will appear nearby. If the old man's background is extraordinary, let's forget about this matter. The tomb of the god of sin is more important now, and we can't afford to cause trouble. The death of a cultivator at the form synthesis stage is nothing to me. Yes, young master. A few days later, there were a dozen new faces in Bluestone Town. However, to the people of Bluestone Town, the dozen or so people were inconspicuous at all. Time flew by. For the mortals of Bluestone Town, the past 10 to 20 years had been pretty good. After all, the population of Bluestone Town had increased, and it appeared to be unusually prosperous. Many of the originally well-off families had been moving closer to the path of great wealth as their businesses grew. These people who later settled in Bluestone Town were extremely generous. Sometimes they would throw away 100 taels of silver for a meal that only cost 1 tael of silver. Therefore, the people of Bluestone Town gradually stopped thinking about the origins of these people. For Ning Qi, he had sent away another group of acquaintances in the past 10 or 20 years. These acquaintances were people he had known since he came to Bluestone Town. In addition, even people of Chen Huan's generation began to die of old age. Unknowingly, Ning Qi had been in Bluestone Town for more than 90 years. Chen Huan was also over 80 years old, but because of his cultivation, he looked like he was in his 50s or 60s. Xiaoqing looked much older than Chen Huan, and Chen Huan's son, Chen Shi, had married and had children in Bluestone Town. He had given birth to a plump baby, and when he was young, his heart was filled with love. He didn't know when he had forgotten about the little things in his youth. "Grandpa Qi, I heard from Dad that your 100th birthday will be in 3 years." Chen Shi carried his child and brought his wife into the shop. The sound of Bei Xiao hammering could be heard from the back of the shop. Bei Meng, who looked like she was only 17 or 18 years old, was massaging Ning Qi's shoulders. The people of Bluestone Town were already used to this. After all, Bei Xiao and Bei Meng had already shown that they weren't ordinary people when they first returned. Chen Shi's wife looked at Bei Meng with a hint of unhappiness in her eyes. As a woman, she had a strong intuition. Even though Chen Shi kept addressing Bei Meng as auntie, she could tell that deep within Chen Shi's eyes, there was an unknown emotion. So fast. Ning Qi was slightly stunned. In the past 80 years, apart from the time when Zhang Chaozhong had killed 2 people, Ning Qi had never made a move again. His life had been very peaceful. He did not expect that in the blink of an eye, he would stay in Bluestone Town for so long. Back then, Ning Qi had been running around everywhere and had never stayed in the same place. Apart from secluded cultivation, he had stayed there for so long. So fast. Chen Shi laughed bitterly. With a pause, he looked at Bei Meng and said respectfully, "Auntie Bei Meng, my father plans to hold a celebration for Grandpa Qi's 100th birthday. Master, what do you say?" Bei Meng looked at Ning Qi with a smile. "Let's do it." Ning Qi smiled. "All right." Over the next few years, Chen Shi seemed to be preparing for Ning Qi's 100th birthday. Chen Huan's idea was that Ning Qi's 100th birthday had to be grand and beautiful, so Chen Shi invited everyone he could. The people of Bluestone Town, as well as those who came to settle down in Bluestone Town, were all sent invitations. With the wedding invitation, those who were willing to come would have hot food and hot wine to eat. With the amount of money that the silk shop had earned over the years, it was not enough to hold a 100th birthday. But Chen Huan seemed to have a small treasury that never lacked money. On the day of Ning Qi's 100th birthday, Bluestone Town's largest empty plot of land was filled with more than 1,000 tables. Based on the calculation of 10 people per table, Chen Huan had invited at least 10,000 people. With a table costing 30 taels of silver, that was 300,000 taels of silver. Chen Shi's wife seemed to be surprised that Chen Huan had so much money. She was also surprised that Chen Huan had taken out so much money to hold Ning Qi's birthday in a fit of pique. If not for Bei Xiao and Bei Meng, which made her a little wary, she would not have been in a good mood even when facing Ning Qi. On this day, Bluestone Town was bustling with noise and excitement. When the passing merchants saw this, they could not help but stop in their tracks and ask in private who the birthday party was. It was such a grand occasion. I heard that the owner of the silk shop, Chen Huan, is holding a birthday party for the owner of the sword shop, Boss Ning. Their families have been friends for generations. Boss Ning came to Bluestone Town in his teens and stayed there for more than 80 years. He's even older than my father. The owner of the silk shop? Oh, that's it. But it's just a silk shop. How can they hold such a big birthday party? I'm guessing they've invited at least 8,000 people, if not 10,000? How much money must they have spent? You definitely don't know what happened in the past. Ignoring the background of the silk shop's owner, Chen Huan, this Boss Ning is no ordinary person. What do you mean? Do you know Zhang Chaozhong? I've heard of him. He's one of the 4 great experts several decades ago. That's right. Then do you know that Zhang Chaozhong bought a sword from Boss Ning and is an old friend of his? There's such a thing? There's actually someone in this small place who is an old friend of one of the Fire Stream Dynasty's 4 great experts, Zhang Chaozhong? It's been too long and many people have forgotten about it. But it's absolutely true. Although I was young back then, I saw the heavenly sword Zhang Chaozhong with my own eyes. When the passing merchants saw that the people of Bluestone Town were so honest, and then saw the extravagance Chen Huan had put on for Ning Qi, they gradually came to believe that Ning Qi was a master swordsmith. They could not help but think of staying behind to join in the fun. When they mentioned this idea, the people of Bluestone Town were overjoyed. Stay and eat. Chen Huan said that anyone can come and eat today. Chapter 2542. Mortals are already this happy after living to 100 years old. TSK. An earth immortal chuckled. This table was full of earth immortals, including Xingqiu. For mortals, 100 years is our era. How can they not be happy? Xingqiu smiled. I wonder why those two would want to send off a mortal. Isn't that a waste of their cultivation time? Someone glanced at the main table. Bei Xiao and Bei Meng were standing behind Ning Qi, smiling. Chen Huan's family and some older people from Bluestone Town, who were not that much younger than Ning Qi, were sitting at this table. I know about this. I heard that those two were just little beggars who were saved by this Boss Ning. They disappeared for decades and returned to Bluestone Town. They're already human immortals. Xingqiu said. The Earth Immortals at this table couldn't help but be surprised. Little beggars? Human immortals in decades? Looks like their sect isn't simple either. Could they be from the outside world? Otherwise, even the Yuqing sect wouldn't be able to turn mortals into human immortals in just a few decades on our ancestral planet, right? Someone said in surprise. The way everyone looked at Bei Xiao and Bei Meng changed. The fact that they were in Bluestone Town meant that their sect wasn't that powerful. Although Bei Xiao and Bei Meng's cultivation wasn't as high as theirs, their background was probably something they couldn't afford to offend. Halfway through the birthday banquet, Ning Qi stood up and said a few words before handing the topic over to Chen Huan. Chen Huan shared some interesting stories from her childhood, as well as anecdotes from Bluestone Town. Some of them even made Chen Xi's wife laugh. Before this, she did not have a good expression on her face, because in her opinion, the money spent was her own. Wasn't Chen Huan's money Chen Shi's? Wasn't Chen Shi's money Chen Shi's? Many of the Bluestone Town elders heard Chen Huan's story, and their thoughts seemed to drift back to the past. Some of them were childhood friends with Chen Huan, but because Chen Huan had left home for so many years, they became unfamiliar with each other. Hearing Chen Huan's story today, they realized that Chen Huan had not forgotten all those things. His eyes reddened involuntarily. After Chen Huan finished, she wanted Ning Qi to say a few more words, but two figures descended from the sky one after another and landed beside the main table. When the people of Bluestone Town and the passing merchants saw this, they knew that these two people were definitely immortals. They could not help but look slightly excited. Could it be that even the immortals had come to congratulate him? The passing merchants couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. This boss Ning was indeed extraordinary. Celestial immortal, the immortals' expressions turned grave. The noisy scene fell silent for a moment. Among the immortals in Bluestone Town, the highest cultivation level was only at the Earth immortal realm. All the heaven immortals lived in Liang City. Therefore, when they saw two heaven immortals here today, they were naturally shocked. No one noticed that Bei Xiao and Bei Meng's expressions changed slightly when they saw the two of them. A trace of worry flashed across their eyes. You two are. Chen Huan glanced at Yen Jingfeng and saw that her uncle was signaling her not to speak. However, Chen Huan still couldn't help but take a step forward. Today was Ning Qi's 100th birthday. He didn't want anything to affect the day. The two heaven immortals glanced at Chen Huan indifferently, then looked around with a trace of disdain in their eyes. Finally, their gazes fell on Bei Xiao and Bei Meng. Little junior brother, little junior sister, when you escaped from the mountain gate that day, Master asked me to bring you back. I didn't expect you to hang out with these guys. Let's not talk about this for now. Follow me back to the mountain and apologize to Master. The extraordinarily handsome young man said indifferently. The other woman, who looked like a perfect match with him, had no intention of speaking. Her expression was rather cold. As soon as they said that, everyone knew that these two immortals were not here to celebrate Ning Qi's birthday. Instead, they were here for Bei Xiao and Bei Meng. Little junior brother, little junior sister? Escaped from the mountain gate? Even the people of Bluestone Town could somewhat guess why Bei Xiao and Bei Meng would suddenly appear after disappearing for decades. Chen Huan and Yen Jingfeng looked at each other and decided not to speak. After all, this was Bei Xiao and Bei Meng's private matter. Eldest senior brother, second senior sister, we can't go back, Bei Xiao said calmly. Senior brother, senior sister, please tell Master to give us another 10 years. We will definitely go back. Bei Meng glanced at Ning Qi and cupped her hands at the two. 10 years. The young man raised his eyebrows and looked at Ning Qi. Then, he sneered. When I heard that two human immortals were going to send off a mortal, I didn't believe it. I didn't expect it to be true. I wonder what's the relationship between this old man and little junior sister and little junior brother? Ning Qi looked at him indifferently and realized that Bei Xiao's hand on his shoulder seemed to have tightened. Eldest senior brother, please be more polite. My sister and I were raised by Master. He had no one to rely on, so we naturally had to send him off. It's only been a few decades. I don't think Master will blame us. Eldest senior brother, are you trying to take the opportunity to make things difficult for us? Bei Xiao's tone turned cold. The young man's expression changed slightly, as if he didn't expect Bei Xiao to say that to him. However, it seemed that Bei Xiao was right. A few decades was nothing to an immortal. After they returned, they would at most face the wall for a few days. However, he couldn't bear to see his master treat these two insignificant people especially well. Even the elixir that he coveted for a long time was given to them. As if Bei Xiao had seen through his thoughts, The young man was temporarily speechless. At that moment, another group of people walked into the birthday banquet. It's so lively. Among the group, a young man sighed with a faint smile. Yan Jingfeng's body tensed up when he saw the young man. The young man's gaze swept across the two sky immortals and finally landed on Bei Xiao and Bei Meng. Were you the ones who killed my eagle slaves? Another enemy? The people of Bluestone Town, the passing merchants, and the immortals who came to experience the aura of the mortal world were all somewhat surprised. They didn't expect so many things to happen at a small birthday banquet. Uncle, they are. Chen Huan looked at Yan Jingfeng. Yan Jingfeng nodded with difficulty. He didn't expect that after so many years, they still hadn't forgotten about it and would choose to come today. This is interesting. Xing Qiu's lips curled up. I killed them, Bei Meng said indifferently. Chapter 2543. Another heavenly immortal. The immortals at the scene could not help but be shocked. Someone from the White Bones sect of the Juku province? A hint of wariness flashed in the eyes of Bei Xiao and Bei Meng's eldest senior brother and eldest senior sister. The White Bones sect was a first-rate sect of the Juku province and had an upper sect as well, making it a first-rate sect on the homeworld that was not much different from the Mystic Sword sect. Before Bei Xiao and Bei Meng could say anything, their eldest senior brother smiled and said, "The Wind and Cloud sect will naturally not interfere with the affairs of your Whitebone sect." "Oh, so you too are cultivators of the Wind and Cloud sect. I am Ruozhen of the Whitebone sect. May I know which Grand Luo of the Wind and Cloud sect is your master?" The young man cupped his fists and smiled as if he had only just noticed them. The Wind and Cloud sect? Xing Qiu and the others came to a sudden realization, but they were puzzled. While the Wind and Cloud sect was a first-rate sect on the homeworld and had considerable influence in Yingzhou, how could they raise two mortals to human immortals in just a few decades? Unless those two mortals were not mortals in the first place. Our master's name is Ling Yuan. The two looked at each other and spoke. The young man mentioned Grand Luo right off the bat, which meant that he was likely a personal disciple of a Grand Luo in the Whitebone sect, which meant that his status was much higher than theirs. Ling Yuan? I remember now, so it's him. Ruozhen nodded with a faint smile. At the same time, Ningqi looked at Bei Xiao and Bei Meng with slightly cloudy eyes. He did not expect them to be Ling Yuan's disciples. Since they are also senior Ling Yuan's disciples, I will let bygones be bygones. Today I will just take their lives. Ruozhen also reached out and pointed at Yan Jingfeng. Following that, his finger paused in midair before pointing at Chen Huan and her husband, Chen Xi's family of 3, and Ning Qi. As you wish. Bei Zhao's eldest senior brother nodded and moved, suppressing Bei Xiao and Bei Meng at the same time. The two did not move and were dragged to his side like puppets. Only a hint of anxiety could be seen in their eyes. If you want to kill someone, then kill me. Boss Ning is already old and doesn't have many years left to live. My nephew has nothing to do with that incident. Yan Jingfeng knew that he would definitely die today. Adding on the fact that he had lived for a few more decades, he had accepted it. He calmly stood up and looked at Ruozheni without fear. Chen Xi's wife was scared silly. Husband, why do they want to kill us? She tugged at Chen Xi's sleeve with a look of horror in her eyes. Don't speak. Chen Xi's expression was solemn as he looked at his father. He knew that his father was skilled in martial arts, but the person who came today was clearly stronger. He did not know how the situation would develop, but he could only wait and see. I will definitely kill you. I originally thought that this old man had some ultimate skills, but it turns out that he only saved 2 disciples of the Wind and Cloud sect. That's why they were so willing to send him off in his old age, allowing you to live for a few more decades. But after all these years, the anger in my heart still hasn't dissipated. A few lives have been saved, Ruojani said with a smile. He had been extremely cautious. As a true disciple of the White Bone sect, he had waited for a few decades to fully investigate Ning Qi's background before choosing to make his move today. He was 100% sure that Ning Qi was just a mortal. There was a reason why Bei Xiao and Bei Meng were by his side. As soon as Ruojin finished speaking, he waved his hand. The people he brought with him were all Earth Immortals. One of them strode toward Yen Jingfeng and reached out to grab his head. "Uncle!" Chen Huan roared, his eyes wide like a tiger's. Although he was already 80 years old, his roar was like a sudden clap of thunder. "Don't do it!" Yen Jingfeng shook his head at Chen Huan. If Chen Huan did not make a move, he might have a chance to live. But if he made a move, he would have no chance at all. Yen Jingfeng looked at the Earth Immortal calmly and prepared himself for death. Sigh, Ning Qi sighed and stood up slowly. The Earth Immortal's eyes flickered. He retracted his arm that was about to land on Yen Jingfeng's head and looked at Ning Qi with a faint smile. Bei Xiao and Bei Meng's eyes were filled with anxiety, but their eldest senior brother had suppressed their cultivation, so they did not even have the ability to speak. They could only stare anxiously at Ning Qi. "Boss Ning, they are immortals. They are unreasonable. You don't have to plead for me." Yen Jingfeng looked at Ning Qi and shook his head. There was a hint of gentleness in his eyes. To be honest, he didn't really think highly of Ning Qi, because Ning Qi was just a mortal, and he was a cultivator. However, Ning Qi, a mortal, had an ancient heart. Because of him, Ning Qi's 100th birthday banquet could not end properly. He might even die today. Yen Jingfeng felt a little sad. "Boss Ning, let the immortals deal with the immortals." Several old men at the same table tried to persuade him. They looked worried. Bei Xiao's eldest senior brother looked at Bei Xiao with a faint smile. He found that Bei Xiao was looking at him with bloodshot eyes. The corners of his mouth curled up. "Uncle Qi." Chen Huan hurried forward to support Ning Qi. "The reason is on the sword. It's useless to talk about it." Ning Qi smiled and waved in the direction of the sword shop. "Come, swords." Everyone looked puzzled, especially the immortals. A mortal suddenly shouted for swords. What was going on? Was he getting old and muddle-headed? Boom! A loud noise came from afar. Everyone was shocked. They looked up and saw dozens of swords flying through the air and hovering in front of Ning Qi. Chen Huan and his wife, Chen Xi's family of 3, Yen Jingfeng, Bei Xiao, and Bei Meng were all dumbfounded. Even the people of Bluestone Town were shocked. The immortals present were taken aback and immediately scanned Ning Qi with their divine perception several times. "He's immortal. He's not a cultivator or an immortal. What's going on?" Ning Qi did not have any immortal qi on him. He looked just like an ordinary old man. But now, dozens of swords were floating in front of him. This was not something an ordinary person could do. Ruo Zhen's expression changed slightly, and a trace of seriousness appeared in his eyes. The way he looked at Ning Qi had already undergone a huge change, and he took a small step back, preparing to flee at any time. "This boss Ning is really surprising." Xing Qiu opened his mouth and looked at Ning Qi with a strange look. Ning Qi glanced at the swords in front of him and picked one at random. Then, the rest of the swords fell and sank into the ground. "Kill him!" Ruojin suddenly shouted in a low voice. The Earth Immortal's body suddenly erupted with a vast amount of immortal qi. Ning Qi lifted the sword in his hand and put it down. Following that, the immortal qi on the Earth Immortal's body weakened at a speed visible to the naked eye. A thin line of blood appeared on his forehead. Then, his body tilted and fell to the ground with a thud. There was no sign of life in his body. He was dead. Chapter 2544. Senior Brother Zhang? The Earth Immortals standing behind Ruozheni cried out in alarm and looked at Ningqi in shock and anger. As for the great senior brother who had restrained Bei Xiao and Bei Meng, his expression changed. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. How could Uncle Qi Chen Huan stared at Ningqi? She was shocked. In her mind, Ningqi had always been an ordinary person. But now, she had just witnessed Ningqi kill the immortal with one strike. Chen Huan was also very familiar with this move. When she was young, she had seen Ningqi practicing swordsmanship. He had practiced this move. How is this possible? Yan Jingfeng gasped. He looked at Ningqi, then at the corpse on the ground. He couldn't believe it. Master is such a powerful cultivator? Bei Xiao and Bei Meng were shocked by this scene. Their initial worries had been thrown to the back of their minds and were replaced with endless doubts. Did Boss Ning just kill an immortal? Oh my God, is Boss Ning also an immortal? No wonder Bei Xiao and Bei Meng are immortals. Boss Ning is an immortal. The people of Greenstone Town looked at Ningqi excitedly. He was different from other immortals. Ningqi had stayed in Greenstone Town for more than 80 years. They were very familiar with this place. Now that this familiar person had become an immortal, they were naturally excited. The businessmen who passed by felt that they had made a wise decision to stay. Otherwise, they wouldn't have seen such a wonderful scene today. Xing Qiu, you've been very close to Boss Ning. You must have known that he was hiding his strength, right? Judging from his skills, he is at least a perfected Earth immortal. Would you believe me if I told you that I really didn't know? Xing Qiu smiled bitterly. He really didn't know. Even though he had his suspicions, he couldn't see any trace of cultivation on Ningqi. Xing Qiu looked at Ningqi and couldn't help but curse in his mind. Who are you? Ruozhen asked coldly. After investigating for decades, he still made a mistake. He already had the thought of killing all those spies. But he had to solve the problem. Since he had already offended Ningqi, Ruozhen didn't want to let it go. Immortal. Ningqi smiled. Take him down, Ruozhen said decisively. Clearly, the other party had no intention of revealing his identity. The Earth Immortals brought by Ruozheni this time were all geniuses. With a dozen of them working together, even an early-stage Sky Immortal might stand a chance. However, after receiving Ruozheni's order, they saw Ningqi raise his hand before they could make a move. Pu. More than a dozen figures fell to the ground at the same time, without any signs of life. In the blink of an eye, Ruozheni was the only one left standing beside him. From the start to the end, none of the immortals present had seen it clearly. This included Ruozheni and the two Sky Immortals from the Wind and Cloud sect. Ruozhen took 2 steps back, and his eyes finally couldn't restrain from revealing a trace of terror. He was a heavenly immortal himself, so he naturally knew what sort of ability was required to annihilate these 10+ earthly immortal realm geniuses. Even if he made a move himself, it would be absolutely impossible for him to accomplish it so silently like Ningqi, and even he wasn't able to see it clearly. Fang made his move. The long sword in Ningqi's hand was bright and flawless, without a trace of blood. But apart from that, there was nothing special about it. It wasn't even the lowest grade Dharma treasure, it was just an ordinary longsword. But it was this ordinary longsword that made all the immortals present shudder in fear. Xing Qiu and the rest could no longer remain seated. They all stood up and looked at Ningqi. Call for help. Ningqi smiled, turned around, and returned to his seat. Seeing this, Yan Jingfeng immediately took a few steps back and sat back in his original position. There was still a trace of disbelief in his heart. It was as if he was dreaming. The guy he looked down on back then had changed into such a terrifying existence in a flash? Call for help. Ruozhen was slightly taken aback. Your elders should be in Liang City, right? Call them over. Ningqi smiled. All right. Ruozhen's expression changed slightly. He didn't want to use himself to test the strength of Ning Qi's sword. Since Ning Qi had given him the opportunity to call for help, he would definitely not let it go. Soon, a flying sword broke through the sky and sped towards Liang City. Ning Qi smiled and his gaze fell on Bei Zhao's eldest senior brother and eldest senior sister. The two were slightly taken aback and immediately retracted the immortal qi that was suppressing Bei Zhao and eldest senior sister. Master! Bei Zhao and Bei Meng quickly ran to Ning Qi's side. However, the way they looked at Ning Qi was also very strange. Everyone's heart skipped a beat when they saw this. Even the two closest to Ning Qi didn't know that he had such a skill? Wasn't he hiding it a little too well? Master, you've kept us in the dark for so long. Bei Meng pouted. Hee back massage. Let's talk about it later. Ning Qi smiled. Bei Meng and eldest senior sister immediately went forward to massage Ning Qi's back and legs. Xing Qiu and the rest, who thought it was extremely strange when they saw human immortals massage mortals' backs and legs, now felt that it was extremely normal. Senior, please forgive me if I offended you earlier. The two's eldest senior brother stepped forward and cupped his hands. Has your master arrived at Liang City? Ning Qi suddenly asked. He's here. The eldest senior brother and eldest senior sister were slightly stunned and nodded subconsciously. Oh, I haven't seen him for a long time. Let's call him over to catch up. Ning Qi said calmly. Everyone's heart skipped a beat, including Ruozhen, because the person Ning Qi called was a golden immortal from the Wind and Cloud sect. Didn't that mean that Ning Qi's status was at least on the same level as a golden immortal? Bei Zhao's eldest senior brother's expression became even more respectful. Just like Ruozhen, he also released a messenger flying sword and flew towards Liang City. After doing all that, Bei Zhao's eldest senior brother asked tentatively, May I know your name, senior? Ning Qi looked at him indifferently and smiled at Bei Meng. Why are you so light? Did you not eat your fill just now? Seeing this, Bei Meng immediately increased her strength. She was even more certain that Ning Qi was no ordinary human, because the strength she was using was enough to kill a cow. However, Ning Qi still seemed to be disdainful. Bei Zhao's eldest senior brother turned around awkwardly when he saw that Ning Qi was ignoring him. However, he was really angry in his heart. Everyone, the birthday banquet is not over yet. Let's eat or the dishes will get cold. Chapter 2545. Fiery Stream Dynasty. Liang City. Liang City was originally an inconspicuous place among the thousands of small cities in the Fiery Stream Dynasty. However, over the past few decades, Liang City had seen a large influx of new faces. Compared to the original population of 1 million, the sudden influx of hundreds of thousands of people had caused a ripple in Liang City. After decades of observation, the commoners of Liang City had concluded that the sudden influx of hundreds of thousands of people was definitely not simple. Although the immortals had a tacit understanding not to disturb the lives of the mortals, the first-rate sects of the 10 prefectures were all gathered in the small Liang City. Moreover, they were all proud geniuses. Moreover, there were geniuses from the outside world, so it was inevitable that there would be some friction. Although they were very careful and controlled their movements to a minimum, some mortals would still see them. When the news spread, apart from the local residents of Liang City, many mortals came because of the fame, wanting to be apprenticed to immortality. There were quite a few who succeeded, but there were even more who were rejected. Those who were rejected were not discouraged, and stayed in Liang City for a long time, waiting for an opportunity to move these immortals with their sincerity. As a result, the population of Liang City once again increased explosively. A small courtyard that could only be sold for 100 taels of silver would be embarrassed to sell for less than 2,000 taels of silver in Liang City. Even so, there was still an endless stream of people coming. Inner City. This place was originally the residence of Liang City's high-ranking officials and nobles. However, these high-ranking officials and nobles had already moved to the outer city. Apart from being able to stroll around the inner city during the day, the mortals would basically leave the inner city at night, not daring to stay for long. After all, there was a difference between immortals and mortals. A flying sword pierced through the air and landed in a luxurious courtyard in the inner city. The mortals were already used to this scene. After all, the immortals had lived in Liang City for decades, and they more or less knew some things related to the immortals. Is that the Chen estate? Shoo, it's where the White Bone sect is. I heard that the White Bone sect is quite ruthless among the immortal sections. The people of the Chen estate were unwilling to leave, and more than 30 of them died in one night. That was why they were so terrified and moved to another place. 2 passers-by whispered to each other before leaving quickly. The inner city still allowed mortals to enter, but they did not dare to live there. In the courtyard, a pale-faced, middle-aged man gently put down his teacup. In front of him sat more than 10 existences with auras similar to his. Do you believe the words of that Grand Luo from the Mystic sect? After so many years, there's still no movement from this place. An old man in a crimson robe said calmly. He's also in Liang City. I think this is believable. After all, it's the Yixian sect. This sect is mysterious and unfathomable. It's said that whenever something big happens in the immortal realm, there will be traces of this sect. Since even the Yixian sect has sent a Grand Luo here, this second divine tomb might be hiding something extraordinary. If that's the case, why didn't the sect leader of the Yixian sect come personally? Haha, could it be that you've forgotten about the matter with Jiang Feng? Although we didn't make it in time that day, we were certain that our ancestral star is far from being a level 6 planet. Apart from the profound immortal, Patriarch Yu Qing, there's also a terrifying existence that can kill a primordial unity true immortal with a single sword strike. Sect leader, would he dare to come? As soon as these words were spoken, everyone went silent. As Grand Luo, they should know everything that happened on the ancestral star like the back of their hands, but they had no impression of that old man's identity at all. Even Grand Luo would feel a chill when they thought about how there was a terrifying champion who had been watching their every move nonchalantly for so many years. That might be a good thing. If those primordial unity true immortals could enter our ancestral star at will, the emergence of the divine tomb would have nothing to do with us. The pale-faced, middle-aged man broke the silence and said calmly, White Bones, I heard that you have some contact with the Jiang family of the Central Empire. Is the rumor true? Has the Jiang family been wiped out? The crimson-robed old man asked again. Everyone turned to look at the pale-faced middle-aged man, waiting for his answer. The middle-aged man called White Bones shot the old man a glance and said, Yes, they've been wiped out. It was the Jade Clear Ancestor's doing. The Jade Clear Ancestor is really ruthless. It was just a fight between disciples. Did he really have to go this far? Someone could not help but mutter. That was when a flying sword streaked through the air. White Bones frowned slightly and beckoned with his hand, and the flying sword landed in front of him. It's the White Bones sect's distress flying sword. The crimson-robed old man smiled. Did your disciple get into a fight with another sex prodigy? I'm not trying to criticize you, but the prodigies of your White Bone sect are too bloodthirsty, and sometimes attract too many disasters. That's right. Back then, you could have gotten this mansion by talking nicely. Why did you have to kill more than 30 people? The crimson-robed old man smiled and shook his head. Don't bother with the White Bone sect's matters. White Bones snorted coldly and rose as if he had noticed something from the flying sword. I'll be back soon. With that, White Bones took to the air and flew towards Bluestone Town. Could it be related to the divine tomb? Everyone looked at each other. In the next instant, the crimson-robed old man was the first to move and chase after White Bones, with the other Grand Luo following suit. Those Grand Luo were the ancestors of first-rate sects in the Juku province. They were on friendly terms, which was why they had gathered here for a chat. The movements of White Bones and the others did not escape the notice of the other Grand Luo in Liang City, and White Bones had no intention of hiding its tracks either. That was why the other Grand Luo moved at the same time, chasing after White Bones. They were very curious as to what matter White Bones had to deal with personally. If it really was that flying sword, they had already seen it in their eyes. In another small courtyard. Ancestor, could it be related to the divine tomb? A group of white-robed men and women stood before an old man and cupped their fists. The old man's hair and beard were all white, and he wore plain green clothes. He counted with his fingers and smiled. It's not the divine tomb, but the signs are a little weird. Let's go take a look. Profound sword, White Bones is moving. I see it. Let's go take a look. Should we bring the disciples? Bring them all. We can enter the divine tomb as soon as it appears. Ling Yuan, that flying sword belongs to your first disciple, right? Did they find your two youngest disciples? The Wind and Cloud sect's ancestor looked at Ling Yuan with a faint smile in a rather remote courtyard in the inner city. Yes, they did. Ling Yuan nodded with an odd expression. Where? The Wind and Cloud sect's ancestor smiled. Chapter 2546. Bluestone Town. Although there were more than a dozen Earth immortal corpses lying on the ground, the crowd gradually calmed down when they saw that Ning Qi did not seem to mind at all. Grandpa Qi, please eat. Chen Shi's wife eagerly placed food in Ning Qi's bowl. Her anger at Chen Huan for spending 300,000 taels of silver on Ning Qi's birthday banquet had long since dissipated. Seeing Ning Qi kill more than a dozen immortals with a few simple slashes, she did not dare to be angry. Instead, she blamed Chen Huan and Chen Shi. She should have been informed beforehand. But little did she know that even Chen Huan had a strange look on her face. All right. Ning Qi smiled as he ate the food that Chen Shi's wife had placed in his bowl. He said earnestly, "You and Chen Shi have to get along well in the future. I've watched Chen Shi grow up and I know he has a good character." Grandpa Qi, Chen Shi and I are very good, Chen Shi's wife said sheepishly. Deep down, she knew that everyone had seen the way she and Chen Shi were bickering. Chen Shi looked a little agitated. Chen Huan and the others had countless questions, but Bei Meng's question had been blocked by Ning Qi. They naturally knew that Ning Qi would not say anything if they asked. Bei Zhao's two eldest senior brothers and eldest senior sister stood face to face with Ruojin. They felt really awkward, but Ning Qi did not say anything. They could not leave or sit, so they could only stand in the middle of the crowd. Just then, Ning Qi suddenly stood up. The three of them were slightly startled. Ning Qi raised a glass of wine with a smile and said to the crowd, "This birthday banquet was organized by my nephew, Chen Huan. I don't have anything to offer, so I'd like to propose a toast to all of you. It's to thank all of you for giving me the honor to come and enjoy this banquet." The elderly of Bluestone Town stood up one by one. The merchants did not dare to remain seated. Even Xing Qiu and the other immortals who had come to join in the fun raised their glasses of wine and faced Ning Qi. They felt like a cat was scratching their hearts. They could not wait to find out about Ning Qi's origins. When the experts from the White Bone sect arrived, they would be able to unravel the mystery, right? After drinking a cup of wine, Ning Qi smiled and gestured for everyone to sit down. However, he poured another cup for himself. No one knew who he was going to toast with this cup. Almost at the same time as Ning Qi poured the wine, 7 or 8 figures descended from the sky one after another and walked in. All the immortals present were shocked. They looked at the 7 or 8 figures with solemn expressions. They had just sat down when they immediately stood up. At the main table, The expressions of Chen Huan and the others changed slightly. They knew that it should be Ruozhen or the existence behind those two. They subconsciously looked at Ningqi. Seeing that Ningqi was still as calm as before, they suddenly felt relieved. Master! Ruozhen was also delighted. He quickly stepped forward and cupped his hands in salute. Ruozhen breathed a sigh of relief inwardly when White Bones personally came along with the Grand Luo of the other major sections. At that moment, the red-robed elder had already noticed the dozen corpses on the ground. From the clothes of the corpses, he could tell that they were the inner sect prodigies of the White Bones sect. Then, their gazes fell on Bei Zhao's two eldest senior brothers and eldest senior sister. Among everyone present, only these two were celestial immortals like Ruozhen. They must be the ones who attacked. How did your junior brothers die? White Bones said flatly. Like everyone else, his gaze fell on Bei Zhao's two eldest senior brothers and eldest senior sister. The two's expressions changed slightly. They knew that the other party had misunderstood something. However, with their cultivation and status, it was not appropriate for them to speak without permission. They could only look anxious. He killed them. Ruozhen turned around and pointed at Ningqi. After holding back for so long, he finally had the courage to look Ningqi in the eye. White Bones and the others were stunned. Then, their gazes fell on Ningqi. Then, they frowned at the same time. Because in their eyes, Ningqi's aura was no different from that of a mortal. He was just an old mortal who was about to die of old age. How could he have killed a dozen earth immortals, and even made a celestial immortal like Ruozhen send out a flying sword for help? Bei Zhao's two eldest senior brothers and eldest senior sister breathed a long sigh of relief. At least the other party did not misunderstand. Next, it was time to watch the show. He killed them. White Bones was silent for a few breaths, then lightly said. Ruozhen looked at White Bones in shock. Could it be that even his master could not tell that this person had a unique skill? Wasn't this too terrifying? Ruozhen had thought that victory was within his grasp. Seeing this, he suddenly had a bad feeling. Master, he did kill them. I saw it with my own eyes. Ruozhen also cupped his hands and said, Interesting. A mere mortal old man could kill a dozen earth immortals? The red-robed elder looked at Ningqi and said with a faint smile. Xing Qiu and the others could not help but pout. A mere mortal old man? They had already determined that Ningqi was hiding his strength. How could he be a mere mortal old man? Although they were not clear about the background of White Bones and the others, they knew that this group of people were at least golden immortals. If even golden immortals could not see through Ningqi's background, then today's matter was rather interesting. White Bones pondered. White Bones glanced at the red-robed elder and then looked at Ningqi. Just as he was about to speak, his expression changed slightly and he turned around. One figure after another descended from the sky like rain. In just a breath's time, there were already hundreds of grand heavenly immortals on the scene. Following them were the prodigies that they brought along. There were 1,000 tables set up for the birthday banquet, and there were tens of thousands of guests. However, when these prodigies landed, everyone, including Xing Qiu and the others, could not remain calm. There were simply too many people. It was almost the same as the number of people attending the birthday banquet. Among them, there were many earth immortal prodigies who were stronger than them. There were also many heaven immortals like Ruozhen. White Bones, you didn't come all the way here just to attend a mortal's birthday banquet, did you? Qi Yao glanced around and could not help but laugh. Old Man Mysterious Sword, on the other hand, stared at the dozen earth immortal corpses thoughtfully. Master! Bei Zhao's eldest senior brother and eldest senior sister suddenly shouted. Ling Yuan, who was originally beside the Wind and Cloud sect's patriarch, had a strange expression on his face when he heard the two's shouts. As expected, his disciple and White Bones had something to do. The wind and cloud sex prodigies were curious when they saw that the two had arrived earlier than them. Bei Xiao and Bei Meng also saw Ling Yuan. They looked at each other and did not say anything. They could only stand on Ning Qi's side today. Chapter 2547. That's the Grand Luo from the eccentric mystic sect, Senior Ji Wulyo. Why would so many Grand Luo be drawn here today? Xing Qiu and the others were both shocked and puzzled. Logically speaking, the conflict between Zhen Yi and Ning Qi was a trivial matter that could be resolved with a golden immortal. But now there was more than one golden immortal. If so many Grand Luo were here, how many golden immortals would there be? It was the first time Xing Qiu and the others had seen such a scene. Their breathing became labored, and there was a hint of pity in their eyes as they looked at Ning Qi. We're just here to watch the show. Please, everyone. Ji Wulyo smiled and glanced at White Bones, before smiling faintly at the others. Only White Bones noticed that the way Ji Wulyo was looking at him was not quite right. To think that such a trivial matter would trouble all of you. Could it be that you've been idling in Liang City for too long that you've become sick? White Bones said flatly with slight mockery. The other Grand Luo chuckled. They only knew that it was a trivial matter now that they were here, and who knew if there would be a phenomenon of the Divine Mausoleum before. Bluestone Town is less than 300 miles away from Liang City. Brother Ji had mentioned that the second Divine Mausoleum could appear in Liang City, which naturally means that it could appear in Bluestone Town as well. Isn't it normal for us to come and take a look? Qi Yao smiled. He did not hide his words from the mortals present, which was why the people of Bluestone Town and the passing merchants all caught the key point. The Divine Mausoleum? Seems like that's why these immortals came to Liang City and Bluestone Town. Some rejoiced while others were worried. Apart from a few mortals who thought that they might gain some providence, most of them felt that the matter was rather serious. The Divine Mausoleum was not a simple existence, and if it really did appear in Bluestone Town, would it still exist? At that time, how many people would die? In their worry, they could not help looking at Ning Qi, who was the one they were most familiar with and was very likely an immortal. You're right. Let's take a look if they want. White Bones smiled faintly and ignored the crowd, smiling at Ning Qi instead. Were you really the one who killed those White Bones sect disciples? So. Many gazes promptly fell upon Ning Qi, with Qi Yao and the other Grand Luo appearing rather puzzled. From what the White Bones had said, those dozen dead Earth immortals were killed by that old mortal. This was a little strange, because in their eyes, Ning Qi was completely useless. Traces of cultivation. It's said that the people of the White Bone sect are ruthless. To think that they would need a Grand Luo for such a small matter. How laughable. But since I'm here, I'll just watch the show. By Shengxue Li Xian, Li Si Ji Shan, and a dozen others stood in the void. Apart from Li Xian, the others were all Grand Luo, and judging from their appearance and bearing, they were all prodigies. That old man looks familiar. Li Si suddenly muttered to himself. Ji Shan nodded subconsciously. Li Xian didn't say anything, but she looked at Ning Qi suspiciously. At this moment, Ning Qi looked exactly like an old mortal man who was 100 years old. He was so old that it was hard to tell his identity from his appearance alone. I killed him. Ning Qi smiled and nodded. Before White Bone could speak again, Ning Qi had already raised the cup of wine in his hand and swept his gaze across the Grand Luo around him, before finally landing on White Bone. This cup of wine is a toast to the White Bone sect. Going from arrogant to deferential? Xing Qiu and the others had weird expressions on their faces. Ruozhen's eyes showed a hint of mockery as well. However, in the very next moment, Ning Qi spilled the wine in his cup on the ground and smiled at White Bone. Many gasped and looked at Ning Qi in shock and uncertainty. Spilling wine on the ground? Wasn't that just showing respect to a dead person? What's up with this old man? Qi Yao looked at Xian Jian, only to find that the latter was staring at Ning Qi with an odd expression. What's going on? Qi Yao transmitted his voice with a solemn expression. It's nothing. Maybe I saw wrong. Xian Jian shook his head, but there was still a hint of suspicion in his eyes. The Grand Luo present looked at each other, feeling both confused and curious. What kind of show was this? If he was immortal, how did he know about the White Bone Sect? And if he knew about the White Bone Sect, why would he dare to do something so humiliating? They were unable to see through the scene that had unfolded today. However, many Grand Luo noticed that there seemed to be a hint of pity beneath Ji Wulyo's unfathomable expression. Pity for that mortal old man? Were all the eccentric mystic sect that compassionate? Many Grand Luo found it rather laughable. Looks like those dozen White Bone Sect disciples were really killed by this person. What did he do that even we can't see through his cultivation? The red-robed elder and the others who came with White Bone all looked at Ning Qi with a hint of doubt in their hearts. What do you mean, sir? White Bone said flatly. There was no way to tell whether he was happy or angry from his expression, but everyone knew that White Bone was very angry. Meanwhile, Bei Zhao's two eldest senior brothers and eldest senior sister had found a chance to return to Ling Yuan and the others. Master, that old man said that he's acquainted with you, and asked us to call you over to catch up. Acquainted with me? Ling Yuan was slightly taken aback. He had always thought that Ning Qi looked rather familiar, and after hearing what the two said, he could not help but recall many faces in his mind. Suddenly, he shuddered and looked at Ning Qi in disbelief, realizing that Ning Qi was becoming more and more like that person. What's his surname? Ling Yuan immediately transmitted his voice. I think his surname is Ning. Bei Xiao and Bei Meng escaped the sect this time to take care of him until he died, but it seems that this old man is not as simple as he seems. I think there's a need to carefully investigate Bei Xiao and Bei Meng's origins. Ling Yuan was no longer listening to him. Surname Ning, there's no such coincidence in this world. Ling Yuan stared at Ning Qi, his lips trembling. What do you mean? Can't a great Grand Luo tell what this cup of wine means? This is a toast to the White Bone Sect. Ning Qi smiled. Deceitful tricks. White Bone barked coldly, and in the next moment, an aura of the great Tao surged out of his body. The shadow of an immortal tree appeared above him, and 3 round Tao fruits hung on the branches. Even the immortals present felt a heavy pressure, let alone the mortals of Bluestone Town. However, the pressure did not. Chapter 2548. White Bones was dead. Countless divine consciousnesses scanned his corpse, but found no signs of life at all. He had died a thorough death, and even his spirit had dissipated. All the grand heavenly immortals present were shocked, and they looked at Ning Qi with a hint of fear in their eyes. How could this be? The red-robed elder and the others who came with White Bones stared at Ning Qi with their mouths agape. Almost instinctively, they retreated over 1,000 feet away. They were the closest to White Bones, so they had the clearest view of the sword. There was not a trace of immortal qi on it, but it was such an ordinary sword strike that mercilessly killed White Bones, a Grand Luo, right in front of their eyes. How could this be? They did not understand, but they knew that the mortal old man before them was not someone they could afford to provoke. They looked at Ning Qi with a hint of fear in their eyes. Master? Ruojini stared blankly at White Bones' corpse with a hint of disbelief in his eyes. Was his master joking with him? He soon realized that White Bones was not joking, and White Bones would not make such a joke. White Bones was dead and thoroughly dead. Ruojini's body could not help but tremble. No matter how he tried to calm himself, he could not stop his trembling. Hiss! Xing Qiu and the others sucked in a breath of cold air and stared blankly at Ning Qi. The scene before them was too unreal. A Grand Luo died just like that? That strike was as ordinary as the dozen Earth Immortals just now. To them, if a Grand Luo were to die, they would die with a bang. What they saw was completely illogical. It was too terrifying. In the void, the expressions of Bai Xingxue and the other Grand Luo prodigies changed drastically. There was a hint of fear and terror in their eyes as they looked at Ning Qi. Their cultivation base was much stronger than the Grand Luo prodigies below, and they could kill a Grand Luo like White Bones if they wanted to. However, they would not be as simple as Ning Qi. That sword strike just now was terrifying. Ji Shan said expressionlessly. I can tell without you telling me. Bai Xingxue's expression was solemn. Was it that person? Li Si muttered to himself. Everyone knew who he was referring to. Everyone fell silent. Only Li Xian's eyes flashed with a strange light. Who is this person? You don't know him? This technique. I'm afraid he's not a profound immortal? There's a second profound immortal in the ancestral star? Wait, old man, one sword, is this senior the one who killed Jiang Feng with one sword? In terms of appearance, no. But the Grand Luo present conversed in secret. They did not notice that there were two people whose expressions were different from theirs. One of them was Ji Wulio, and the other was Old Man Mysterious Sword. Old Man Mysterious Sword glared at Ning Qi as his hands trembled. This was not a trembling of fear, but excitement. Because this strike was from the emotionless sword technique. I didn't expect this kid to really master the emotion destroyer swordsmanship. But why is his aura exactly the same as a mortal's? Old Man Mysterious Sword looked at Ning Qi with a gratified look in his eyes. Although he couldn't see through Ning Qi's cultivation, he could tell that Ning Qi had surpassed him with that sword strike. His cultivation was on par with White Bones. If Ning Qi could kill White Bones with a single strike, he could naturally kill him with a single strike as well. One could say that the title of number one in the mystic sword sect would belong to Ning Qi in the future. It was then that Chen Huan and the others came to their senses. Compared to them, Bei Xiao and Bei Meng knew better how powerful a Grand Luo was because they were human immortals as well. Therefore, when they saw Ning Qi kill White Bones with a single strike, Ning Qi's image in their hearts crumbled for the second time. Even their master, Ling Yuan, the golden immortal of the Wind and Cloud sect, could only surrender to White Bones. How could Master be so powerful? We've been serving him for so many years, but we didn't even notice it. If that's the case, even if Zhang Chaozhong didn't save us back then, Master would have done it, right? Bei Meng looked at Bei Xiao and transmitted her voice. Bei Xiao did not say anything but nodded solemnly. He believed that Ning Qi would have done it back then. That's too powerful. Yan Jingfeng stared blankly at Ning Qi's back, unable to wrap his head around it. Although he was only a Qi refinement cultivator, and could not tell the difference in strength between White Bones and the dozen Earth Immortals who were killed by Ning Qi, the weight of the word Grand Luo weighed heavily in Yan Jingfeng's heart. Since the beginning of his path of cultivation, he knew that Grand Luo were the pinnacle of experts on the ancestral planet. How powerful must Ning Qi be to kill a Grand Luo? That Bei Zhao's eldest senior brother and eldest senior sister stared at the scene in bewilderment, their bodies trembling uncontrollably. They already knew that Ning Qi was powerful, but never did they expect him to be so powerful that he could kill a Grand Luo with a single strike. What kind of existence was he? Why would their youngest junior brother and youngest junior sister have such a close relationship with such an existence? A hint of fear appeared on their faces without them realizing it. However, they suddenly changed their minds. Wait, didn't that senior say that he was acquainted with Master? Does Master know this senior? The two quickly looked at Ling Yuan and indeed found some clues. Ling Yuan's expression at the moment clearly showed that he knew that mysterious elder. At this moment the entire place was silent. The disciples of the various sects, including the prodigies from the outside world, were all looking at Ning Qi with a hint of fear in their eyes. Why does he look a little like Big Brother? Ing Xuan finally felt that something was wrong, especially the smile on the old man's face when he spoke. It was very similar to the Ning Qi she remembered. However, Ing Xuan was sure that it was not Ning Qi. Ning Qi had only been missing for 100 years. Even a peerless genius could not kill a grand Luo with a single strike in 100 years. You guys are with him? Ning Qi glanced at White Bone's corpse indifferently, then at the red-robed elder and the others with a smile. The red-robed elder and the others felt goosebumps on their backs when Ning Qi looked at them, and quickly said, "We're not from the White Bone sect." "Aren't you?" Ning Qi muttered noncommittally. The red-robed elder and the others had been Grand Luo for a long time, but they had never been as terrified as they were today. It was only when Ning Qi smiled and nodded that they breathed a sigh of relief. At the very least, their lives were saved today, and they were not implicated by White Bones. "I'm Ji Wulyo from the eccentric mystic sect. May I know your name?" Ji Wulyo looked at Ning Qi and smiled. Everyone's ears perked up, but before Ning Qi could speak, a voice came from the Wind and Cloud sect. "He's Ning Beixian. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.